Mm. Yes, my own. People are come my own name, not okay. My own.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes, sir. Very good morning, sir.
Yeah,
Thanks for the opportunity to join the meeting, sir.
yeah, thank you too. Yeah.
Yes.
Hello. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, good
How are you,
morning.
Prof? Thank you very much for the
Good
privilege
morning. We are
to be
fine.
here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
How are you, sir?
Very fine.
Thank you for the opportunity. God bless you and bless your team.
Amen.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Good
Hello,
morning.
Bashiru, how are you?
Fine.
Good
God
morning.
Very fine. So when we want to start, I will mute all everything so that it can be
Yes.
clear, please.
Okay.
sir.
Thank you.
Mm.
Dr.
We're
Bashiru,
going
how
to-
are you?
Fine morning, sir.
Very fine.
Yeah, morning.
Yes, how's the family, sir?
Yeah, that's it.
Fine, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Morning, everyone.
Morning,
Yeah,
Prof.
this is Bangura from Sierra Leone. Thank you very much for the
Oh,
opportunity.
Wow.
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
They're good.
Thanks to the team.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes, sir.
Let me say hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hope you don't knock
Good
the
morning. This is Omoto Solusola from Nigeria.
Yeah, nice to have you here.
When does the lecture commence, please?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. It will
Yeah.
last for how many hours? It will last for how many hours?
3 hours. The program is lectures. We are going to have three presentations that will be within 1 hour.
Okay.
But the remaining ones will give time for people to ask questions, because that is where we will have more time.
But please, if the audio is not clear, how can we get the recorded lecture or presentation rather?
Passion.
You'll definitely get it.
Okay.
I will put it on the it will be on the website.
Okay, because I'm not.
Thank you.
Just log in and you access it. Then I'm going to give information about that. Don't worry.
Because I think I have not delivered my message. Maybe my email address, you know how to contact me.
No problem. That one is no problem. By the time we are through, we'll give information about how to go about that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you. So we're welcome. By 9, we'll definitely start. So I want to welcome every one of us to this program. I am sure that at the end, we'll be better for it. And our plan is to ensure that going forward, consistently, we'll be in touch with as many participants as possible with regards to their PhD thesis, with regards to their research, and so many other areas that we can provide help for. One of the things we plan doing is to increase our network of people who can be of mentors to assist. So at the end of this lecture, I'm going to give we're going to discuss or give a number of details about some of those things that we'll do going forward. But I want to appreciate you guys for coming. Somebody said that it's been established in the Bible that when there is no vision, the people perish. But that if there are no people, the vision will also perish. If you are not here, the vision will perish. But together, we'll push these things to where it should be, and Nigeria will be better for it. So like I said, exactly 9 o'clock, I'm going to give a brief, and then we'll start immediately. All the speakers are already on ground. So please, I'll give the rules. The rules are that if you want, nobody will speak until at the end of all presentations. Nobody will speak until at the end of all presentations. And after all presentations, then we can begin to ask questions. Now, for you to ask a question, you will just raise your hand. But I will advise that if possible, you can type your question across, and then we can also take it. Okay, one way we can clearly hear ourselves and make sure that the process is smooth is for us to also ensure that sometimes we reduce, the way we talk and all of that. So one way to do that is that if possible, please just type your question. We will take your question and address it. Okay, we'll definitely take your question and address it. So please, and so don't talk until the end of our presentation. We have 3 presentations this morning. We have 3 presentations. So once again, I want to welcome us to this program. It's actually to us to interact basically on PhD thesis writing in the area of economics and finance. Over the years, with our experience and coming up in contact with so many students here and there, we have always seen the need to interact with students all over, especially in Africa, to see where we can be of help and where we can leverage on so many resources we have within Africa to reach out to as many as possible and develop their capacity, especially in the area of their PhD thesis and all of that. And it's on this note that we that will be speaking today, had a meeting and said we should think of doing something. And thank God that this lockdown came, and this lockdown is basically giving us a platform for us to reach as many as possible. And so once again, I want to welcome us to this meeting today. And I will just take off immediately because by 9, one thing I've learned over the years is that we should do things on time. Timing is very, very important. And so we said 9 o'clock prompt. So we're going to start immediately 9 o'clock prompt. So our presentations are going to go this way. Dr. Oluwatosin Adeniyi, my senior bros himself, is going to start with the presentation first. He's going to speak to us this morning on how do you select a PhD thesis topic. Maybe by the time it's through, some of us might need to probably change our topics. I don't know. But I am sure that by the time he's going to talk to us this morning about how do you select your PhD thesis topic. And he's going to also talk to us about literature search and how your literature will be reviewed in a way that it will help you to also select your topic. Okay, so this one is going to talk on that, and then I will come in as the second speaker this morning to basically speak generally on the overview of the PhD thesis structure from the beginning to the end. I'm going to be brief, but I'm going to also make some sense. Okay, I'm going to also make some sense and possibly some practical examples to also show, just like any one of us will do. And lastly, Dr. Olookere Afolabi or Dr. Afolabi Oluokere, who is a friend and a friend also, will be speaking from Abuja. He's in Abuja. He's the head of economic research and management in SEC. So he's going to speak from there. He's going to speak to us this morning as well on citation issues and at the same time plagiarism, because it's a key issue. And how do you avoid that? What are the different forms of plagiarism? Because it's possible for you to plagiarize yourself. So he's going to talk about that and how can we avoid that. So 3 of us will be speaking, and at the end of that, we're going to have a section for questions. Practical question, it might be your topic and all of that. But going forward, we'll open this training up for, sometimes we are going to, sometimes we'll expect that some schools can just decide to say they want to host us, and we can just host that school alone and speak to their PhD students one by one on their topics and their processes. That is one thing any school can do with us. All you need to do is to notify us through the email, and then we'll arrange a meeting with your school and your student, and then it will be good. Okay. So basically, I will just go straight into the presentation this morning, and I will just call on Dr. Oluwatosin Adeniyi. Oluwatosin Adeniyi is a senior lecturer in the Department of Economics. He's a senior lecturer in the Department of Economics, University of Ibadan. University of Ibadan. So he's going to speak to us, this morning. So I will just hand over to him as he takes over this morning. So, Dr. Adeniyi, you can take over, sir.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Prof. And I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, they can. I muted them, but they should.
Oh, okay.
Please,
and then
if you can hear, just signify by with a sign of, there is a sign there. If you cannot hear, just put a sign to raise up your hand, but I'm sure they will hear.
Okay, sir. And then you might have to enable me to share my screen. I have.
Okay, I'll do that now. Sorry.
A few slides. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so you can do that. You can share your screen now.
Okay, thank you, Prof. How do I enable my video? Just 1 minute. I'm trying to enable my video, Prof. I've seen a few people saying they can't see the speakers. Okay. Yeah. So can you hear me, Prof, and everybody? Hello, can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I needed that that response. So, yeah. Good morning, everyone. So it's nice to be here with all of us, although virtually. It's part of the new normal in this COVID season, and probably will continue quite a bit for some time longer, even post-COVID. So I have some minutes to speak about topic selection and then literature search and how those are connected with doctoral training in economics.
Hello? Has Dr. Tosin gone? Hello? 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 Like Dr. Tosin has. Hello? Can you hear me, everyone? Can you hear me? Okay. The presenter has, maybe his network is giving him problem or something. Okay, so I don't know. Maybe the presenter network is somehow. Maybe I can come in and make presentation, and then when it hook up, then we can continue instead of wasting time. Maybe that's what I would do. I don't know. Let me reach out to him first briefly. If sorry, okay. Hello?
Oh, I think I don't hear you.
Hello, sir. I have unmuted everybody. It's like Dr. Tosin has not come back. So let me start my. Okay, so I'm going to make my presentation pending when Dr. Tosin joins us. I want to welcome us to this morning. I'll be talking about the overview of the PhD thesis that I'll talk about, an overview of PhD thesis writing. Okay, this is how my outline would be. I'm going to talk about, the PhD thesis has a number of sections. Number one is introduction. Number two is literature review. Number three is stylized fact, which I'm not going to really spend time to talk about because it's not compulsory for all universities to be having stylized fact. Because somewhere along the line, I'm going to talk briefly about that. Then I'm going to talk about methodology, empirical analysis, then finally summary, recommendation, and conclusion. I'll also give you an hint on abstract. How do you write your abstract? Okay, so basically, introduction is separated into a number of sections. Okay, so I'm going to basically speak on the sections and the key sections that you can have in introduction. Is what I'm going to talk about this morning. Okay, so basically, number key item in introduction is what we call the problem statement. The problem statement is very, very, very key. It's very, very, very key. So what is the problem statement? The problem statement actually, the basic features that you find there actually talked about, or you are expected to have a concise description of the research issue that you want to address. So your problem statement is in fact, I sometimes call it the most important aspect of the thesis. So it provides and describes in concise form, in a context, what is the research issue to be addressed, okay? It provides concise answer to why the study. In fact, if you don't know the why of a thing, there is no need for you to go to into that thing. So you need to articulate why the study, okay? That is, your problem statement, will give us a fair background about something that is not known and it is necessary, and we need to find out with possible solution. Please, if you have any question, just post it, just send a message and I will look into it. One of us will see it and then send message to us. Okay, so what am I saying? It's basically talk about what is not known and it's necessary, not just what is not known and it's not necessary. It has to be unknown and it has to be necessary. Okay, it has to be very, very necessary. And your problem statement synthesizes a number of issues: the research issue and the economic issue. Okay, and sorry, I thought I was on this. Okay, sorry. So the problem statement basically synthesizes a number of things: the research issue and the economic issue. And I'm going to talk about that. The truth is that you need to have a good understanding, basic and good understanding, in fact, deep understanding about the empirics. That means the dimensions and the tuition of the empirics, the theory as it is, the economic channels and the leakages, and the economy that is you want to do your study on. You need to understand the economy, the practice, the policies, the realities, and the development within that economy to be able to articulate a good problem statement. You need to properly have a proper and a good understanding about this background. Having a good understanding about the empirics, the dimension and the tuition, the theory, economic channel and the leakages, the economy, the practice, the realities, and then the policies and the development within the context of that theory, to be able to properly articulate your problem statement. Okay. Now, I want to say that when you have that good understanding, you must be able to write a very compelling, clear, concise, relevant, and problem statement that raise researchable questions. These researchable questions, when somebody goes through your work, are chronologically presented in the problem statement, because sometimes people have research questions, but you cannot find a place in their problem statement where these research questions are addressed. So if you have research questions, they come from your problem statement, okay? So I want to take us back a bit to some of the things that we understand. You know quite well when we were in secondary school that there is what we call paragraph linkers, meaning that each paragraph, come with an idea. In fact, every paragraph has one idea. These days, if you read people's problem statement, you just find out that there are almost 2-3 ideas in one paragraph. That is not supposed to be. So every paragraph comes with one idea. Not so many ideas in one paragraph. Except you have given a broad overview at the introduction, then every paragraph comes with an idea. Okay? So each paragraph is linked to the other. And not just linked, ideas are synchronized to each other. So as I read your problem statement from introduction, from the first paragraph to the other, ideas are linked. So this one first paragraph linked to the second one up to the last, and within the context of that problem statement, somebody can find the issues that you have raised, the questions that could come out from the study you want to do. Okay, so I once again, I will take us back a bit. In our secondary school, we were taught what we call descriptive essay and argumentative essay, and you know quite well that when you were in your secondary school, if you are asked to write an essay, I don't think any of us will go into doing literature before we can write our essays. I remember that we can write 2-3 pages of arguing about that essay without looking at any book. It then implies that we can also, even now, be able to write our problem statement without looking at anything. It's a possibility. The reason why you cannot put down your problem statement by yourself is because you don't understand the issue. And that is the reason why you might want to go back to study the literature to understand the issue. Or else, if you understand the channels, the theory, and the issues, you should be able to, on your own, be able to present your problem statement. I have come across students and I ask them, your topic is this. Okay, so speak to me about what it is. They'll keep quoting literature review here and there. And I always tell them that, yes, there is literature review, but the problem has to be very articulate and very clear for us to know what you are actually doing and what you want to do. And so I always tell them that when you were in your secondary school and a topic comes up, you were able to present this topic without looking anywhere. What happens? Because as at that time, you have a firm understanding about what you are doing. So the truth is that to have a firm and a problem statement that is concise, clear, and relevant, and that can raise researchable questions, you need to properly understand the issues. And I put it there, I say research starts with thinking and putting down your thoughts in perspective. And I also let us know here that when we talk about research, research is not for publication. Publication is the secondary aspect of research. Research is first to know. And if it is first to know, that you need a deeper understanding about the issues. And when you understand them, then you have informed yourself. It is when you have informed yourself that you can pull down your ideas in raising your problem. If you don't understand the issues, you cannot articulate a good problem statement. So start with thinking and putting down your thoughts in perspective. And then it also gives you a chronological flow of one paragraph until you get to the last, so that you'll be able to synchronize your ideas from the first to the last. Very, very important. Okay, that takes me to some of the tips in articulating a good problem statement. What are the tips? What are the tips? What can make you to articulate a good problem statement? Because like I said, the problem statement is the number one thing. Is the number one thing, is the key aspect of the work, okay? Okay, so you need to, like I said, have a firm grasp of a number of things for you to articulate a good problem. Number one of them is a thorough understanding about the literature. You need a thorough, I use the word thorough, okay? You need to go through the literature very well. And I'm going to say a number of things. One, you need to understand the similar countries, other jurisdictions, what is applicable as regards to the issue you want to address. Somebody is going to talk about how you pick a topic, because those things are be related, okay? So you need a thorough study on the literature. If you don't have a thorough study of the literature, going through the literature to be able to understand the issues, you cannot adequately articulate a good problem statement, except for somebody who has a firm understanding about the issues, the empirics, the theory, the channels, the practical, and all of that. So one, you need to understand similar countries. You need to understand other jurisdictions. You need to also understand the leading authors. Sometimes, because it's your area, you want to do a study there, you should be able to have a firm grasp of the leading authors in that area, okay? So a good literature study will give you all of this. And what are you trying to understand? You must have a basic understanding, basic and key understanding of the issues, like the empirics, the theory, the methodologies, and then implications across the regions. This is one key thing you need to do to be able to come back and write a firm, concise, clear, and researchable problem statement. The empirics, the theory, the methodology, implications across regions, and the key issues within that country that you are talking about, very key. If you have not done that, I can tell you that what you are going to write as problem statement will be shallow. And like I said, your problem statement is the most important part. And I also put it here in case I forget, that what drives research is the issue and not methodology. I've come across a number of students, when we go to next conference and so many people, some will say they are doing their PhD in social university and say, please, what is the leading methodology to do social study? And I tell them that methodology does not drive research. What drives research is your ability to understand the issues. And I also put it across to us that it is your understanding about the issues that make you a researcher. The first thing about research is to know. It is not for publication. It is to know, it's to inform yourself. And so if that is the case, you need a thorough understanding about the issues in the literature, whether empirics, whether it is theory, whether it is methodology, whether it is the implication and the intuition and the policies and development around that country or region that you are interested in. That is number one thing that will help you to articulate a good problem statement. Number two is that you sometimes need to have a thorough things about the stylized facts and the development in that country. And I'm talking about the issues and development in terms of the economy. If the study is based on one country or one region, the economies involved, And if it's involved, if it has to do with firms, you need to have a thorough understanding about the firms that you are dealing with. You know, sometimes you come across students and they say they are doing some. I think I've gone for a PhD thesis defense, and somebody was doing something on cement industry, and it doesn't have a grip of this different cement industry that we have. I asked him, you should be able to understand the cement industry, how it operates, leave the literature. And then he will ask him a question about the cement industry, and mentioned that he's looking left, right, and center. And I said, no, you need to understand, if you are doing a study on firms, you need to have a firm grip about the firms you are dealing with. The truth is that this is the area you are doing a thesis, and when you are through, you are an author, and you are also seen as, you know, seen as an expert there. And that is why it is called PhD, doctorate, no, Doctor of Philosophy. You are a philosopher in that area. And so you need a firm grip of the economy, the development in that economy. If it's firm study, you need to have a proper understanding about the firm or the industry that is concerned. Okay? You have a firm understanding, broad perspective. For instance, I've seen people that are doing something about monetary policy, and you ask them, have you come across the MPC communique on monetary policy? They said, no, they have not. And I wonder if you are doing a PhD thesis and you are doing something on monetary policy and you don't have a proper understanding about what, you know, CBN is, the CBN monetary policy. Sometimes I've come across students that are doing something of government spending, and what they just need to do is to go and collect one data from the CBN website and run the regression. And I ask them, do you know that government spending that you are using is a federal government estimate? And that there are 3 tiers of government in Nigeria: the local government, the state, and the federal. These 3 of them spend. And so if you are running a regression of federal government expenditure on growth, you might not have any implication or any reason or any significant interest. So it's not about the methodology or collecting data. It's about understanding the issue. There's a consolidated spending in different aspects of spending, whether it's education, whether it's health. And besides that, there is difference between, you know, spending that is released and then spending in terms of spending in terms of what is the budgetary estimate to what is actually spent. And I always tell students, because I've come across a number of students that are doing something on government spending, and I tell them, I said, there are a number of reasons why your government spending will not have impact on growth. Number one of them is that the data you are using in the federal government. Number two is that spending does not have instantaneous effect and immediate effect, okay? Because it takes a lapse of time for you to be able to release money and put that project in place before you can contribute to growth. So what am I saying? You need a thorough understanding about these issues. And like I always say, that thesis or research is to develop your capacity and understand about that area. Leave the publication aspect. Publication is something else entirely. Yourself first, so that anywhere you speak, they could know that you are an expert. You actually did a PhD thesis in that area. I've come across a student also who was doing something on SME financing, and I told him, I said, do you keep track of what CBN is? The student said he doesn't know. And I asked him so many questions about so many areas where SME financing are taking place. And sometimes I asked him, are you aware that there's what we call Development Finance Bank of Nigeria, Development Bank of Nigeria? He said, no, he's not aware. And you are talking about SME financing as a PhD thesis. What am I saying? These are the broad perspective of things that you should develop yourself with, okay? These are the broad perspective of things that you should develop yourself with. It's very, 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 very important. Okay, the last thing you should pay attention to when you are writing when you are going through your literature, when you are doing your stylized for things that you must keep track of when you are reading them, because as you are reading, you are deepening your knowledge, okay, on either the empirics, the theory, the methodology, the implications, and the issues within the firm's industry or economy or the policies around it, okay? You are deepening your knowledge, but keep track of the following things: when and where will the problem arise, okay, as you are reading. Who and how does it affect the economy or the firm that you are dealing with? How does it affect the industry that you are dealing with? As you are reading, keep questions, okay? And you also need to understand what attempts have been made so far in the research or in the policy dimension, because so many policies have been introduced. You know, somebody presented something recently and he was making recommendation, and I asked him that, do you know that so many interventions are taking place on this issue, and you are recommending for government to provide more intervention? You need to understand these interventions and be able to come up with a, your implication or your recommendations should be that probably this interventions you have reviewed, because you need to have a proper understanding and see whether they are not working or why they are not working before you make recommendations. Because if you just go generally to say that government should put more intervention in that area, what are the ones that are already there? Okay, so what am I saying? You need to understand what attempts have been made in the research front and on the policy front and the economy front. And then how has the problem been debated in the literature is also very important as you study deep and deepen your knowledge. Because if you don't have all of this, keep track of this, you can't articulate a good problem statement. Then what likely will happen if the problem is not solved? These are questions that you need to answer as you read along. These are key questions you need to answer as you read along, okay? So what am I saying? These are the criteria or tips for writing a good problem statement. And I will stress it and underline it again. Your deepening of your knowledge around them. It is when you have this proper understanding that you go back and articulate a good problem statement, okay? As I proceed, I'll still, buttress a number of things as regards that. The number two key important aspect of your thesis is justification for the study. I have seen people when they write their justification of the study, and the most time you see them saying, this study will be important to policymakers, it will be important to stakeholders. The question I say is that there is no policymaker that will see your PhD thesis. Let's not deceive ourselves. There is no stakeholder that will see your PhD thesis. And I give you this, I finished my PhD in Uniben, and 3 weeks after I submitted my this thing at the PG school, I was supposed to go and collect my copies because I'm supposed to have 2 copies, one for myself and one for AEROC. And when I got there, they couldn't find it. They looked for it everywhere. If I tell you where they saw it, it's like staying in the bush. When they brought it, within 3 weeks, it was full of dust. The question is that no stakeholder will see it. That is what I'm trying to buttress. The truth is that your justification for the study has to do, it centers or has to do with the gaps in the literature. Because you are supposed to extend the frontier of knowledge. Somebody said something someday in one university when the student presented, and then another professor said that your student has not added any knowledge to this literature. And the supervisor said, but he has not destroyed knowledge also. Sometimes if you are not careful, we are destroying knowledge instead of adding to the frontier of knowledge. So this is where you buttress and expatiate the gap in the literature and how you want to contribute to it. And that still take me back to you having a deep knowledge. Okay? And so what are you trying to stress in your justification for the study? And let me also put it here. Sometimes I have found out that I have gone to some universities and I find out that when they are writing justification for the study, there's a section of justification for the study. They also have a section for significance of the study. And I always tell them that justification for the study is the same as significance of the study. When you justify why you want to do your work, you are also making this, stressing the significance of your study. So you don't need to have the section separately. It's one section. And what is it about? It's about what is known, what is necessary, and yet to be addressed. I repeat myself. Justification for the study is what is known in the literature and what is necessary. It must be very necessary to the economy you want to deal with, and that it is yet to be addressed. And so you articulating the relevance if addressed. What am I saying? Sometimes I've seen people who sometimes will say that my study, I'm going into this study because nobody has used GMM. And so GMM is the reason for going to the study. And I tell the guy, I said sometimes the assumption behind the problem statement and the issue might not need GMM. And that is the reason why maybe you not see any leading author actually, making use of GMM. See, methodology, you can rely on methodological issues, but you must be able to stress beyond just say, I'm using GMM, or I'm using method because nobody has used it. If it is necessary, I can guarantee that so many people, would have used it. Because there are leading authors here. You are just starting your PhD. So what am I saying? It must be known, it must be necessary, and it should be able to address the issue and provide relevance to the economy. If that is not established, you have not justified your study. Okay? So if I'm using GMM, then tell me why GMM would be able to provide relevance. Why GMM will be able to provide relevance in respect to the issue and to the economy. Not just to articulate and say it's GMM, okay? Very important. So it's about the gaps in the empirics, the gaps in the theory, the gaps in the methodology. And I'm going to say 1 or 2 things here. Please, there are so many things you can find in the empirics, okay? What has been done empirically, and I will just because of time, talk about one of them, because when we go into a question, we can talk more. For instance, methodology is beyond just the analytical tools. Methodology also talk about the concept, the variable, and the measurement. I give you a case. We are talking about financial development. Financial development is a concept. There are ways it can be measured, and there are so many ways in the literature. Probably you find out that so many of them have been used, but one or two is given less attention in the case of the country or the region you are interested in. You must be able to go beyond to say, I'm using this because it has not been used. No, you are using it because it is relevant in addressing this. You must go beyond just mentioning why you are using, why it has not been used, but why it will be relevant. And addressing it will solve this and this. Very important. That is what I mean by just talking about state what is necessary here to be addressed, okay? Because state what is known and it is necessary. I mean, state what is known, what is necessary, and what is not yet, what is not addressed, and how relevant it is, okay? Very, very, very important. How do you sometimes look at justification for your study? What gives you some criteria to justify your study, or what gives you some criteria to know that yes, you or to have idea about how do you justify your study? If you look at the empirical literature, it gives you a proper understanding. Sometimes there will be wrong application of theory and methods, okay? Sometimes policy changes have come in. Sometimes data changes, okay? Sometimes some people would have made use of the wrong policy or wrong theory or wrong issues as they do the analysis. I'm going to come to a part that will give us a better guide, okay? So and then you'll be able to articulate why doing it will be extend the frontier of knowledge and stretch that point. And that is one key aspect about justifying your study. As I proceed, the next key items in your introduction are research objective, research question, and research hypothesis. I'm going to talk about the three of them together. Research question, like I said, arise from your problem. So if they go to a research question and somebody read your problem statement, they should be able to see that you have addressed, articulating the economic and the research issue that will give birth to these research questions, okay? And it must align with your objective. So if you have three objectives, you have three research questions, okay? And they must be, there are things that you must be able to analyze empirically in your study. Don't put research questions that if you go to your analysis, they cannot be captured or analyzed. And the next thing I want to talk about has to do with, most times your research questions might be more than your hypothesis, okay? And what do I mean? Sometimes you have research questions that you are going to address with what I call descriptive analysis, okay? Such research questions don't need hypothesis. But if you are going to address research questions that are going to be analyzed with inferential statistics, you need them. Hypothesis is only required when you are doing inferential statistics, not descriptive statistics. So you can have more research questions than your hypothesis, okay? The other thing is that they must be answerable in your analysis, So you put questions that are answerable and they are captured in your methodology. Then your research objective. There are two aspects of it. We have what we call the broad objective. And when I talk about the broad objective, but you need to articulate your specific objective. And I will use an example. I'm doing a study on the impact of financial development on economic growth. Your broad objective is to examine the impact of financial development on economic growth. That is the broad objective. But specifically, you need to now think about the concept of financial development. What are the variable or measurement tools for financial development in the literature? And the one you think that if you do them, they could contribute to the literature as you have articulated your justification for the study. Those ones now form the specific objective. So probably one of them is probably equity to GDP ratio is one of them. You can say because you have stretched why it is useful in your justification. So equity to GDP, impact on economic growth. Okay, so you go specific, and your specific objectives are simple and unambiguous. Sometimes I've seen people that write 2-3 sentences in specific objective. No, get the concept, get the variable and the measurement, and in that concept, they form your specific objective, and you would have stretched their relevance in your justification for the study. The next thing I want to talk about as we talk about objective is that you might have more objective than your hypothesis. Your objective will be equal to your research questions, but there will be more than your hypothesis. And that is still the same reason I gave you when I was talking about research question, that your objective, sometimes some of them you want to analyze with discrete statistics. The other one you want to analyze with inferential statistics. So those one with discrete statistics will not reflect your hypothesis, okay? And the other thing is that all your objectives, specific objective must be You must apply analytical tool to them and provide answer to achieve all of them. And they are captured in your methodology. Some of the words that you will come across being used to capture a specific objective are to estimate, to examine, to analyze. Okay? Now, I want to stress here that the fewer your objective, the better. Please, take note. I have seen cases where people have close to 5, 6 objectives. PhD thesis is minute in the area. You are going to dig deep, study deep to understand the issues in one area, not in so many areas. The more objective, the more problem you put to yourself in studying so many things and have just a myopic knowledge about the issue. So the fewer, the better. I've also seen people that put, sometimes you see some objectives like, you see people put objectives like specific objectives like I want to make recommendation. Recommendation is not an objective. Every research you do, you must make recommendation. Very, very key. Okay, what am I saying? Your specific objectives are tied to the research question and they are tied to the hypothesis. If the hypothesis, if those objectives are things that you are going to analyze with differential statistics, okay? So the fewer, the better. In my thesis, I have just 2 objectives. But there are some inherent objectives, okay, which because I want to publish out of, were also partially captured and later developed. The fewer, the better for you, please. I can tell you that because it makes you to dig deep and understand because you are going to be a philosopher in that area, okay? And lastly, hypothesis of the study. Hypotheses are only stated when you are using differential statistics, please, okay? And when you have objective that means, when you have objective that means the use of descriptive statistics, you don't need hypothesis. Like I said, they can be less than objective or less than your research questions. And they must be stated in null form, please. They must be stated in null form. Sometimes people state them in both ways, null and alternative. It is not compulsory, except that your school requires that. They can, because when you test it, you are either accepting the null or you are rejecting the null. And they must be testable. Please put them in, and let me also put it there. The method you are using determines how you state your hypothesis. The method used determines how you state your hypothesis. So your hypothesis is a function of the method you are using. For regression, null hypotheses mostly are stated in null form. For instance, you can say financial development has no significant impact on economic growth. That is how a null form is stated. Okay. So that for regression, that is how it's stated because you are talking about the coefficient, and the coefficient has to do with b equal to 0 or b not equal to 0. That is what you are stating. So you need to understand the method you are using to be able to understand basically how to state your hypothesis. I'm going to talk less on this part because somebody is going to address literature review also. But I will state here that one of the reasons why you should read your study or literature review, in fact, one of the most abused parts of the PhD thesis or research is literature review. Literature review is one of the most abused parts. Sometimes we just copy people's literature review and paste it there. My brother, you are not doing yourself good, and I will tell you a number of reasons why you should study and you should review literature. I'm going to highlight them. Very, 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 very important. Please don't copy somebody's literature review and paste it. Because you are doing a research. It's not something that you just post out there. It's something for you to increase your knowledge and deepness and understanding about that issue. And it's literature review that gives you that leverage for that. Number one thing you must take note is that literature review is not a burden that you must cross as you do your PhD. Number two thing you must know is that the process and the product of the literature serve as a foundation to build a career on. See, when you understand the literature and even when you finish your thesis, that determines whether you can build career in that area. If you don't have a full grasp of the literature in that area, you will find it difficult to build career along that path. So it is one key in the process, and the product is a foundation for you to see whether you can build career there. Okay, it also gives you a fair background to familiar yourself with the study and the leading author. So you have finished your PhD and they ask you, who is the leading author in this area? Sometimes you are looking left, right, and center. My brother, my sister, as a PhD student, you are an author in that area, and therefore you should be able to tell us who are the leading authors in that area. It is your review and study on the literature by yourself that gives you that, and not to copy somebody's work. So somebody is going to talk about plagiarism and how you have to do that. Okay. The number two thing, the next thing is that it helped me to gain experience and skills on how to synthesize issues and integrate issues. Because when you read people's paper by yourself, It gives you that leverage to familiarize yourself on how those things are done and develop your skills along that path very well. It helps you to identify key issues that are yet to be addressed, not just to just put things together and then collect data and say because GMM is not used. No, it is about you be able to identify the key issues that are yet to be addressed. Very, very, very important. And it also helps you to learn method and analytical tools in that area. Like I said, it's not every method that is applicable to every problem. Therefore, your understanding about literature sometimes gives you a fair understanding about the methodologies, analytical tools, the measurement issues in terms of the concept along that path. That gives you a fair understanding so that you not just go and pick one method, say I'm using DSG, or sometimes people just mention some big methodology, and I will still put it here. Methodology does not drive research, it is the issue. And understand about the issues along the path of the literature, in terms of research, in terms of economics, and in terms of the intuition behind the different channels across the issues. Okay? It helps you to situate your study in the context, in the right context, and then show how important your study is. It also helps you to show the depth of your knowledge in the area. Okay, what are the prerequisites? Number one, you have to search thoroughly. Leading researcher. Somebody is going to talk about that, so let me just skip that. But let me also tell you this. How do you organize your literature? I'm going to just speak briefly about that. Number one is that you need to organize your thoughts, your issues as you read them. Because when I was talking about justification, I highlighted some things. Keep track of those things as you are reading and studying. As you are doing that, you'll be able to organize your thoughts, your issues chronologically. You're able to, as you read, organize them from generic to specific, by topic, by method, by theory, by findings, then by jurisdiction also, so that you can synthesize the issues as you discuss and write the literature by yourself. Okay, so that takes me to, for instance, look at this table. When I was doing my thesis, I had a table like this, and the table I have, the table you are seeing here is what I did in my time. What I did is that I have a table. I just opened a big book. Sorry, I opened a big book, and then I put a section called author and year, objective of the study, methodology, theoretical framework, the findings, possible implication and remark. I'm going to talk about that. So if I pick the first paper, I'll write the author's name and the year in bracket. I'll write his main objective. I'll write his methodology and why he's using that methodology. Then the theory is using, the theoretical framework, I will put it down and why he's using it. Then what are the findings? I put them down. What are the possible implications? I put them down. Then I have a remark. Remark there is, so let me talk about whether there are issues that are in the literature that he has not addressed, that need to be addressed. I put them down under remark. So that's how I review the work one by one. By the time I am through, it gives me a big understanding and a better understanding. So when I'm writing my problem statement, I'll be able to intertwine the issues because the table is before me. I can see what each author has said in the different areas across the concept. Very, very important. Please. This has helped me. In fact, till today, I can give you different books I have used to review my literature in different areas I've worked on. I always put them down so that I can be able to write it myself. Because first is for me to understand. That is why somebody will go to a place and somebody is discussing something, you can contribute very well because you read the literature and put it down yourself across the issues. Structure in this part of the world. What we do in terms of literature review is theoretical, empirical, and methodological. I think I will speak less on that. Somebody is going to handle that. The characteristics of a fair literature review is accuracy. It must be deep enough, it must be relevant, it must be synthesized. So somebody is going to talk about that. Let me not spend time on that. But let me speak about theoretical framework. Your theoretical framework is very, very key. Let me tell you this. If you don't have theoretical review in your thesis, I don't think you have a fair, reason to have theoretical framework. Okay? You will not be able to have that until you are able to review what I call theoretical review in your literature. That is when you now have what it takes to be able to have a theoretical framework. Because the theoretical framework that you have, if they go to your theoretical review, it must be found there. I've seen people who have theoretical framework, but if you go to their theoretical review, you can't see that theory there. And your theoretical review actually try to explain, what factors, what are the factors that determine your dependent variable? That's what your theoretical review is doing. The theories that explain the variation about your dependent variable. And one of them will be very useful to your analysis or to your empirical specification. And that one serves as a theoretical framework. It is called theoretical framework because it serves as a frame for your work. Okay? And it shows the theoretical link between the concept. It provides a theoretical underpinning to the issues, describing the assumption, the channel, and implications. It emanates, like I said, from the theoretical review. Now, you can have your theoretical framework in a schema or in equation form. The most time in economics, we try to put so many equations to deceive people. I'll talk about that. It can also be in words by intertwining and synthesizing the issues with citations, bringing out the assumption, the channel, and implication and intuition behind it. It's also fine. Okay? Sometimes people use theoretical review, theoretical framework, and say they are making modification, and then they will just see them throw one variable. That is not, you have not done theoretical review. If you have to modify somebody's theoretical framework because you find out that a variable needs to come in there for the case of the country, region, or the firm you are studying, you need to go back to the assumption behind the theoretical framework or the theory and realize that assumption and rework it, and then come up with the implication. That is how it is done, not to throw one variable there. Okay? So the author must be able to, and I also want to put it there, don't put a theoretical framework that you cannot solve and explain in words, in simple terms, in terms of how the issues, because every notation there serve as, whether it's in economics or finance, serve as, it has a meaning. So you must be able to understand that way in which these things are intertwined. Okay, very, 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 very important. So your theoretical framework comes from your theoretical review, okay, and it stresses the link between the concept and the issues. And don't just, like in my thesis, I wanted to use a theoretical framework, but I found out that for the case of the region I'm studying, I need to do some assumptions. And so what I did was to go to the mathematics and did those assumptions, relax them, because I also have a firm understanding about the literature, and I'll be able to now rework it and take it as a theoretical framework for myself. And I didn't just throw a variable there. Let me also tell you this. Your theoretical framework is not a model. Sometimes we just present, I've seen people who are doing something of growth. They just present subductor production function. Before you know it, they throw a variable there. They say they are doing theoretical framework. No, it is a theory explaining the links and intertwining between the issues and the intuition that will come out of it. And that is theory itself. It's not specification. Okay, so let me go. Methodology. Okay, and that section you see beside the theoretical framework is the methodology. Now you specify your model based on your theoretical framework. Your theoretical framework is the foundation for your model specification. I've seen people who now later come and say, I'm following so-so and so-so and so-so. But I thought you have a theoretical framework. Now, if you look at the people they are now following, when they are presented their theoretical framework, whether in a schema or in equation, sometimes you look at those authors, you find out that those authors did not even use that theory. Okay? So please, there must be a link between your theoretical framework and your model. And if you are citing people to buttress your point, those people would have used that theoretical framework. And like I said, it's not a model where you can just throw a variable. It is, so your model specification, you can throw a variable, but there must be a place in your theoretical framework that justifies why you throw that variable. And then when you specify your model, you now talk about the a priori expectation, the intuition behind every variable in your model as it aligned to the theory you have defined or you have presented. And then that takes you to method of analysis. You state the method, and not just the method, you provide rationale why you are using that method and how that method could help you to provide justification for the study in extending the frontier of knowledge. The last thing that you talk about in methodology is data source. Sometimes I've seen people who try to say, I'm using two sources of data, primary, secondary. Okay? You don't need to write your data source as if you're writing a textbook. Just take the source of your data. I'm collecting my data from the CBS article bulletin, and it covers this period. And these are my data, okay? Very, very important. Please, key. Then the other thing is empirical analysis. This is why you present your data and discuss your empirical results. Here, you take a deeper look at the result. I have seen somebody who run a regression. For instance, somebody run a regression and they say consumption is a function of income. And because the result says that the variable, the coefficient is minus, it will just come and present it at PhD. What you are telling me that you have not studied the literature, you have not studied the issue. So when somebody even run regression for you, sit down because you have understanding about the literature and look at the result. Does it make economic sense? Before you put it in writing in your thesis, If it does not make economic sense, you need to go back. You need to look at, because you have discussed it, you have the theoretical framework, you have discussed the intuition and the channel. So you should be able to see whether that result makes any sense. No, I've also seen cases, for instance, another case is that you run a regression and you find out that consumption is a function of income, and then the question of consumption is plus, correct, but it's 1.2. It doesn't make any sense. So you look at the sign, the significance, and the size of your regression. Let me also tell you, the regression is an estimate. Regression does not define your result. It is the issue that you have understood in the literature that define your interpretation. And so don't put your PhD on the lap of regression result, because methodology have assumptions and the data you have can be at variance with the assumption, and that can be the reason why you have those results. And so when you go back and study your specification, sometimes you find out that something is wrong somewhere and you correct it. I give you an example. If somebody was doing a study on the impact of government expenditure on economic growth, and he said he did co-integration test and he couldn't find co-integration. He ran to me and I told him, let me see your specification. When I saw it, I told him, you cannot find co-integration. He said, why? I said, growth by theory is driven by certain variables. Expenditure is not going to have direct effect on growth. It's going to go through channels. And what are the channels that it's going to go through? To go through capital formation. Okay? So it will go through so many things. Government sometimes release a budget, and then that budget they release, they are going to execute in the process of the project. They will employ people. So there are some certain key things that supposed to come into your growth model. So go and understand the theory of growth model. Growth model can be exogenous growth model, can be endogenous growth model. Understand those the channels and the issues behind the growth model and how expenditure comes in. It is when you do that you can estimate a model that makes sense. Okay, so you need to have a depth of the issues that you have analyzed, because what your regression, your methodology is doing when you do it is to provide estimate to justify what you have discussed in the issues. So like I said, don't be driven by the analysis, be guided by the theory and the issues already known. And let me also tell you, your chapter 4 also gives you opportunity to justify your findings in the general area that you are studying. It gives you an understanding to discuss the intuition, the implication, juxtapose the issues against other studies, and situate your work whether you are also making sense in this study. Very, very, very important. Okay. Lastly, summary and recommendation. I will speak less because as question time comes, but summary is key. You need summary. Talk about the summary of your findings based on your objective. If somebody read your summary, you are presenting your summary objective by objective as you have found out. First and foremost, you need to have a broad summary of the process of the thesis as a paragraph, and then therefore the study after using this and that, find the following. Remember figure 1. Then you now present them as you find out based on the objective that you have specified, because your findings are to answer every objective. So there is a link between your presentation of your findings as regards to the objective you have presented. Very, very key. Okay, and then recommendations come from your findings. How do you recommend? You have a good grasp of the issues, and so when you find something, you already know the intuition behind it. That gives you a platform for recommendation. Please don't write textbooks recommendation. I give you a simple example as I close. Somebody attended a seminar somewhere in Abuja. Somebody was doing something on Millennium Development Goals as of 2014. That was September 2014, and he ran the regression and said that Nigeria will achieve the education objective of the Millennium Development Goal. And I said, "Oga, sit down." I said, Nigeria, this is 2014 and 2015 is here. You are saying that we can achieve the education objective by your regression. I said, sometimes you should sit down and study and know whether this thing makes sense before you take it out for presentation. And then we're making so many recommendations from here. And I said, sometimes researchers, we are like, a white man who go to a Yoruba party because he have crammed from his country a dance style that correlates with his music, but it's in a Yoruba music environment. And the Yoruba man is now making music and is dancing all kind of dance that does not correspond. I said, that is what we do. We most times cram textbook recommendation we have seen or from other studies, and then by the time we are through, we just pour them down, 10 or 20. And if you look at them, none of them go in line with the theory and the issues you have discussed. None of them go with the intuition behind your findings. It is the intuition and the policy implication of your result that give you leverage for recommendation. And please, don't make recommendations that has to do with government should. Those are general things. You don't make general recommendations. Instead of generalizing the issues, Based on the intuition, go deeper into the specific policy that could provide solution to that issue. For instance, somebody presented something and he was talking about growth or something and all of that, and he was making a government should go and increase anti-poverty something or something. So I told myself, there are so many poverty things that have been done before. Why are you generalizing? Based on your result, make recommendation based on the intuition. What should be done? Sometimes we do our work and we'll now blame government. It's not government. It's you. It is you that have developed your capacity in your knowledge in that area, and then you have done some analysis that serve as estimate or buttress what you have known, and therefore you make recommendation based on the intuition. That's the reason why when the intuition does not make sense or the estimate does not make sense, you go back to your specification and make corrections. Okay, so your recommendation emanates from your result. Last thing I want to talk about is your abstract. Your abstract is just a concise and summarized version of 5 items in your thesis. Number 1 of them is the brief issue, which is the problem statement in terms of just a cap of the issue, and then the main objective, the methodology that you have used, okay, the findings, and the main recommendation you are making based on that findings. That is your abstract. I want to say thank you for listening, and God bless you. And I will also say that I would have gone deeper in terms of the practical issues, but because we have section for questions, so we'll wait until that. And also because of time limit, I will say that thank you, and God bless you. My sweaters. Sorry, I'm coming to I want to end my. Okay, thank you for listening, and God bless. So I don't know whether Dr. Tosin Adeni is around. If he's around, okay, so I'm going to allow him to make his presentation now. Is there Adeni? Sorry, I'm trying to look for his name too. Choice, they are hearing you, please. What did he used to say? Okay, I've seen it. Okay, so you can make a presentation, sir.
Can everybody hear me? I don't know if I'm to continue or okay. Can you all hear me, please? Okay, so I would so thank you, Professor Ereha, for this invitation. I really do not know if the audio is getting across to all participants, but I would keep speaking and hope that I would get some feedback that can help me better place whether I'm audible enough or otherwise. Now, this was supposed to be the first in the series of 3 presentations, and but because of the technical glitch initially, the bulk of the discussion about the structure of the PhD thesis has been taken by Professor Ereha quite competently. So I will just make a few points and try to go over my slides as quickly as I can. Now, just by way of preamble, I have a chart here that shows in terms of the number of doctoral graduates, that is people with PhDs, the global distribution as at year 2014. And as we can see clearly from this chart, this distribution also in so many ways mirrors the socioeconomic development levels across countries. So we see that it's mostly countries in North America, in Western Europe, and some other OECD countries, with a few big developing countries like India and South Africa that produce the highest number of doctoral graduates. Now, when we think in terms of the percentage of the population or the proportion of population that has a doctorate degree and that fall within the age bracket of 25 to 64 years, from this OECD report for 2018, we'll find that the OECD average is a little above 1% of the population. The idea here is that a doctoral degree and doctoral training all over the world, regardless of how you look at it, is quite a prestigious activity, and it's quite a useful and fruitful enterprise. Now, in terms of distribution, and this one speaks directly to our focus today, since we are mostly social scientists, people who are in economics and finance, we see a distribution here. It's also from Eurostat for 2017. We see that most of the graduates are in disciplines like business, administration, and law. And then we find social sciences lumped with journalism and information somewhere around the middle. And I think another interesting thing that comes out of here, or from this chart, is that for that year, there seems to be a better performance by females than males on the average, which is something exciting to see, particularly in fields like finance and economics, where there's a lot of concern about underrepresentation of women in these fields. Now, this is not to suggest that actually more women graduated, because these are proportions. So if a few women out of a small group graduate, you get a higher proportion than many men from a larger pool. So, but this suggests absurd. Now, I've tried to paint some ideas about this PhD thing, and I got a few newspaper articles over the years trying to describe what I could call the capacity gap in terms of PhDs in Nigerian universities. So you can see a gradual progression from about 2011 to 2019, moving from a case where there was an urgent need for academics with PhD in 2011, and then to the remarks of the NUC Executive Secretary in 2019, that 60% of lecturers in Nigerian universities now are PhD holders. I left this last slide because over the years, I've had so many of our colleagues and our former students at the point of graduating or close to graduation from their PhD programs, they come and they are worried about what to do next. So I usually encourage them with this idea of this metaphors of cul-de-sac and an autobahn. A cul-de-sac, simply put, is just a narrow road that has a terminal point at the end, just like a close, but it's a straight road. It's not a bent road, it's just a straight road that closes at one end. Whereas an autobahn describes their major highways popularly found around Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and a few Western European countries. The moral of this slide is to say that what a PhD training does to the mind is that it broadens it such that you are like someone who is on a very wide road, on a highway. You are not to be pigeonholed. You are not to just be restricted in terms of focus. So if I want to summarize it, that I would say a PhD is not a sentence to a life of teaching or a life in the academics. So there are PhDs in the private sector, there are PhDs in government, there are PhDs also in international and multilateral institutions, and they all still do very good research. Now, my presentation, okay, the outline, I would talk about naming and approaches to naming, since we are talking about how to title our thesis. It's like, in my mind, naming a child. I would speak about literature search. Literature review, I think Professor Ere has done fantastic justice to that, but I will still mention a couple of points. And then I would end with some concluding thoughts. Okay, so the first point is the very thin lines across disciplines and how disciplinary lines increasingly are becoming more blurred. So whether we say economics or finance, or economics and finance, or economics and or finance, okay? The point I'm trying to make with this is that a lot of the things that we do and we classify as finance mostly are applications of empirical macroeconomics. Most times, maybe empirical monetary economics or empirical macroeconomics or empirical international finance. Okay, but there is core finance, which is related to economics, but deals more expressively with the behavior of financial markets in different forms, whether it's the banks or it's the capital markets or derivative markets or all of those markets. Now, in naming for the PhD thesis or in titling, we have to understand naming from two perspectives. Naming as an event and naming as a process. Now, if we take naming as an event, what that suggests is that there is this sense of urgency or this feeling of trying to put a label to what you are trying to do. At the point of starting a PhD, what I tell a lot of my students and people that I talk to is that at the point of starting your PhD, you do not have a thesis title. At best, you have a working title. Because if you understand that the naming of the thesis output is a process, then you are open to the possibility of making adjustments to that title as you go further down the line. A lot of times you put a title to something, and then further down the road, you start to have issues with data, you start to have issues with methodology, and then you start to adjust objectives, and then the title changes eventually. So let us see the process of titling a thesis as a process as a journey, just as the thesis writing itself is, rather than as an event. Now, in terms of approaches to titling or naming, I would talk about two broad ones. The first one is not very popular in the Nigerian academic setting, and it's theses that are formatted in forms of essays. So for those of us who might be studying in South Africa or who have gone on sabbatical or have done postdocs in South Africa, for some of the schools like University of Cape Town, Pretoria, Stellenbosch, and a number of others, to qualify for the award of the PhD degree, you write a series of essays. So for instance, the title of the thesis can be Essays on Finance and the Economy. Essays on Finance and the Economy. And then one of the papers can be Financial Development and Growth. Another one can be Financial Fragility and Financial Inclusion. Another one can be Financial Liberalization and Poverty or so. So you have distinct papers, either 3 or 4 in most cases, that can stand alone and that also makes sense together. That if you pull the 4 together, you can form a thesis. Now, the long thesis is the version that in most Nigerian universities, as far as I'm aware, that is used. And it's just the 5-chapter format that Professor Irea presented. And in terms of naming, there are 2 broad ways that are found in thesis titles. At least I've looked at over 500 of those in the University of Ibadan Library. The bulk of them are the ones I call regular, which are the usual topics, the impact of this on that, the determinants of so and so. And then in some fields, less so in economics and financial studies, there are those that are a bit provocative. We find those in the humanities and arts most times. That is, theses that are titled as questions, okay, or that start with a negation. And then what they will now do in the thesis is to now argue the opposite of what the title suggests. Just like newspaper editors can have sensational titles, and when you get to the body of the text itself, it says something completely different. So 2 broad ways: the regular one, which is the regular titling, and the other one is the one that is questioning or querying. And in economics, in papers, most times you find those kinds of titles where someone says the role of financial development on growth does so and so variable matter, does another variable matter, or what is the role for this as an intervening variable. So those are broadly the approaches to naming. Now, literature, Dr. Bright has mentioned it, that in Nigeria, the structure most times is around theoretical literature, empirical literature, and in some cases, methodological literature. Now, we can debate whether it is in all situations that we can clearly draw distinctions across these 3 or otherwise, but that's not the subject here. I think Professor Bright did a very interesting job trying to sort that out. The theories, the empirical papers, things that other people have found, and then methods, the approaches that were broadly used to arrive at such findings. Okay, but in doing a literature search, there are 3 things or 3 key areas. I call them 3 key critical contestations here. Number 1 is an idea about what to search. The second one is that there should also be some understanding about the why of the search. And then the third part, which completes that trial, is how to search, which is going to be the focus of the next things that I'm going to describe. What to search, why to search, those would come from some preliminary understanding of the issues that are of interest to a researcher or to the subject of interest. In terms of how to search, there are a number of approaches. One popular one that we all do is the use of popular search engines. One of the popular ones is Google Scholar, as against the regular Google pages. And then there's also a directory of open access journals where it is possible to find, good articles, good literature, as well as JSTOR, okay, which I did not list here, but it's also very important. Now, beyond search engines, there are also libraries. Libraries broadly of two forms. The brick and mortar libraries, which are the physical ones in our universities and around our cities, and then the digital libraries, which are online libraries or repositories for different things, and Mendeley and a few others are very useful examples of that. Okay. Now, another way of searching for literature is searching specialized journals in the fields of interest. In this case, economics and finance. I listed a few examples here. So there's Journal of Economic Surveys, which is published by Wiley and Sons. Now that journal is entirely devoted to different forms of literature reviews on different subjects. So if you need a heads up or you need a quick understanding of what the mapping of the literature on a particular subject you are interested in is, one of the first things that I try to do in my own personal research, and someone taught me to do during my thesis, was to check out Journal of Economic Surveys to see whether there is a survey, whether old or recent, that has summarized the literature on that subject. What that helps you to do is that it helps you get a quick glance and understanding of the issues. That does not stop you from doing the extensive reading of the literature that Professor Bright mentioned in his presentation. That is absolutely important. But if you find a good article in Journal of Economic Surveys, the list of references can help you begin the process of searching further literature and then doing the extensive reading that he mentioned. Okay, and there's also Journal of Economic Literature and the Journal of Economic Perspectives. So those are specialized journals that mostly publish surveys. Meta-analytics and scientometrics. Now, these are evolving paradigms in literature review, where the papers themselves and literature themselves become the data points that you then use for analysis, whether parametric or not parametric, even econometric analysis, you can perform them. So meta-analytic papers, scientometric papers also provide extensive references to relevant literature on any subject that you might be interested in. The last one, which I've coined as web combing, was very useful for me in my PhD days, and I would recommend it to anybody as well. Which is, by this I mean, in whatever field of study, by the time you start searching literature on any subject, there would be some authors that you will find their names recurring in most of the papers you are reading. Now, those are likely going to be the lead scholars in that field. So what you can do, particularly in contexts or environments like ours, where there are paywalls, you cannot access Science Direct, you cannot access Wiley, you cannot access Taylor and Francis. What you can do is that you can visit the website of these authors. Most of them have university websites, and in most cases, you would find some of their papers downloadable. So that also is a useful way for searching. Okay. Now, in terms of the review itself, I would quickly go over this because I think Professor Erea did a fantastic job once again. I will not stop mentioning that very clear fact. Okay. But I was supposed to do this before he made his presentation. So I said the details for literature review, he would handle that, and I think he has done justice to that. But equally important is the idea, okay, about the centrality of questions. When I say questions, I mean research questions. I do not encourage most times that people should start trying to do their work by beginning with objectives. Okay, that after you have contextualized and you have motivated the issue, or you have defined a research issue, or you have been able to draft a problem statement, like we call it popularly, the next most important thing is that questions agitate your mind. If you begin with those questions, then converting the same questions to objectives is a very straightforward task. So research is essentially about which questions or what kinds of questions are you asking. So research questions are everything. I said, well, almost everything. There are other important things, but research questions are very central. Objectives are also very useful guides. Now, in terms of approach, Dr. Bright mentioned this. I would just quickly go over it. So that I categorize approaches into two. One is the narrative or descriptive approach, which means the entire literature is written in prose, like we do in our thesis most times. But in some theses that I've seen, including one that I was involved in trying to examine for one of our senior colleagues from another African country, there was a summarized version where the bulk of the literature were just presented as charts, as tables, and other forms of representation. But I said in our settings, that's not very, very common. Now, structure. It can be chronological, meaning that on that subject, you begin with what is called, or what we typically will call, the seminal contribution on the subject. So I work in energy economics a little bit, and if you're writing any paper on energy consumption and growth, energy consumption and CO2 emissions generally, you would have to begin the literature review by citing a paper by a set of authors called Kraft and Kraft 1978, because that is the seminal paper. That's the first empirical paper that tried to look at the interactions between energy and the rest of the economy. So chronological means that you begin from where the issue began, and then you trace the developments in a time consistent manner up to the contemporary times. Another approach is a literature review that is theme-based. That is, you do not necessarily have to follow a chronological order, but you can arrange the literature in terms of themes. For instance, if you have 3 stated objectives in your first chapter, when you get to the literature, you can also structure the literature based on those objectives, because each objective will now be one thematic area. So you can do a thematic, but whether it is chronological or thematic, what is important is that literature review must have a critical element. And I juxtapose being critical about literature against stacking. Now, what we find that people do a lot is this literature stacking, that someone does, it looks like someone just copies abstracts from 10, 15, 20, 30 papers and just paste them one after the other, just stacking them one or the other. And then you read and there is no logical flow, there is no clarity about, and there's no consistency or correspondence with the objectives of the study. But a critical review would not only follow a chronological or a theme-based approach, but it will also make attempts to try to critique that literature. So it's something not right about the approach that the paper took, where the issues not clearly outlined. Was there an omitted variable that may be important in the context that you are studying? Several other things can be the base from which you critique papers in the literature. And then finally, that this process is an iterative process. Okay, so the literature review you would keep, as you would see, you will keep updating and keep writing even till you get to the point of defending your thesis. Because as you go along in the course of writing, several new things would come up that might need you to acknowledge or to incorporate in your work one way or the other. Another aspect of iteration is that it helps particularly for the external examiner who might be examining your thesis, to have as a final section in your literature review, a section that now itemizes the gaps from that literature. The gaps, okay, so you have critiqued this literature, you then have to have a section where you itemize the gaps that you found in the literature. Now, note that these gaps are going to correspond directly to the discussions you would have in your justification for the study. So there has to be that, just like the research questions and the objectives have to correspond. Okay, the gaps in the literature which you are trying to fill would be the arguments that you will push forward in your justification of the study. So that reiterating the gaps in the literature is an important and useful part of the literature review. Okay, so I said, so we'll get into the intricacies of the structure, which Professor Area has dealt with in detail. Another important aspect is intellectual property. This is where issues around plagiarism, self-plagiarism, and those other issues will come up. I think my colleague, Dr. Oluokere, would speak to that subject as well. But beyond helping our careers, that is avoiding plagiarism, it also serves these two important purposes. One is what I call collegial courtesy, meaning that it's a nice thing, or it feels nice for people in your epistemic community or academic community to cite what you do. It's like an endorsement that what you have done has value, even when it is critiqued. If you say Adeniyi 2018 studied finance and growth in Nigeria, however, he did not establish a threshold, okay, at which finance begins to have a positive impact on growth. Now you have critiqued Adeniyi 2018, okay, but you have also said that you acknowledge and you recognize that he did something, even though he didn't do everything completely. So collegial courtesy and just for acknowledgement, it's important for us to bear that in mind. I say choice and guidance are complementary. By this I mean that in the choice of your topic, there is an important institutional arrangement that we have left out of the discussion so far that is extremely important, not only in Nigeria, in every academic setting. And that is your team of supervisors or your PhD supervisor. So whatever thing you do, as you follow any of these recommendations and approaches, it is important that that supervisor is carried along every step of the way. So if you're on the same page with your supervisor and the relationship intellectually works smoothly, then the chances of having issues become less, if we may put it that way. Another thing is that institutional context also matters. Okay, so there are postgraduate committees at multiple levels, departmental level, faculty level, the postgraduate schools that are focused on consideration of abstracts. Okay, so depending on what those committees feel at one point or the other, you might find that whatever name you have given to what you have done might be amended in one way or the other, because your thesis the title has to be registered. And once the title is registered in most PG schools in Nigeria, it can no longer be altered. So it's important that, okay, because of this factor, particularly, we keep an open mind because there is a possibility of renaming or retitling what you have done. Okay, it might not detract in any way from the quality of what you have done, but these institutional arrangements and the requirements from university to university, it's important that we familiarize ourselves with the one that is specific to our own university or the university we intend to enroll in for our PhD program. So those are my final thoughts on this. I would just say many thanks to you for your kind attention, and I would say we should all please stay safe. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Okay. Can you hear me? Good morning. Please, if you can hear me, just signify. Let me see one hand up. Okay, thank you. Okay, so once again, good morning, and thanks to everybody for being here. And also thanks to the speakers who have spoken before me. I'm being asked to speak on citations and plagiarism, the issues, and how to avoid the problem that may come as a result of that. So I'll try to do that in about 15 to 18 minutes. I have this image which says that you need to use your own ideas, or you quote your sources. If you don't do either of this, it is then plagiarism. So get original idea. If you don't have the original idea, if you are lifting anything from anyone's work, make sure you quote it. Having said that, I would like you to see my outline of presentation. Likely, I'll be speaking about citation and plagiarism. On citation, I will speak about what is it, when to, what to, and how to cite. On plagiarism, we'll be looking at what is plagiarism, types of plagiarism, causes of it, and how do we avoid it. As PhD students, also having the knowledge that some of us are supervisors of students, so that is very important. Definition: a citation is the way you tell your readers that certain materials in your work came from another source. So you need to let them know that certain materials came from another source. Why? It gives the reader the information necessary to find that source again. Sometimes, as Dr. Adeniji has said, you want your reader to be able to read the paper by themselves so that they make their own independent judgments on what is contained in the paper. So it's important for you to, if you don't put the citation, how would they know the paper you've consulted, and how would they be able to read it and make independent judgments? It gives credit to the original author. It helps you to avoid plagiarizing, and it shows the extent of research done. This is very important because as I said, it shows the extent of the research that you have done. It lends outside support to your work, because you also need to let people know that what you are doing has been done before in one way or the other. And it then helps to distinguish your idea, thereby bringing originality in what you have done. So when do you cite? You need to cite when someone else's work has been a critical part of developing your own idea. That is very important. So you have read someone's work, and that person's work is very critical in determining or in channeling the course of your own work. You also have to cite when you are paraphrasing others' ideas or their words, when you are quoting others' words, when you are using their images or videos, and it also very interesting, when you are in doubt, you don't know whether to cite or not, just cite. What do you cite? You cite facts, models, statistics, quotations, diagrams, images, photographs, equations, theories, and ideas. All these may come from books, journals, web pages, newspapers, TV, lecture notes, working papers, theses, dissertations, projects. They have to be cited if they are used in your work or informing your ideas. How do you cite? There are quite a number of citing standards. Most of us understand this. The most common ones we see in social sciences are the AVA system and the APA style. Most of our universities also have different adaptations of this. I finished from University of Ibadan. I know it follows a bit of the APA style, but there are also differences in terms of some styles that the university will require. So you need to understand the requirement of your university. I just put a simple example in what I have here. Paraphrasing, for instance. An original example says, correct referencing is essential if you are to succeed in academic study. So someone wants to paraphrase it and says, according to Adams 1999, learning to reference correctly is good academic practice. What do we see there? It contains the same idea. The words are not lifted verbatim, yet it is cited. What are we citing? Not because we are lifting, but because we are using the idea of this person to rewrite our own. The author, who is Adam, said, correct referencing is essential if you are to succeed in academic study. But the researcher will write to say, according to Adams 1999, learning to reference correctly is good academic practice. Someone else is summarizing a Smith work, which says, Smith has written an entire book on how much she enjoys using APA formats. On how much she enjoys using APA formats. The writer says, Smith 2003 explains that APA is fun. Or APA is fun, Smith 2003. She enjoys it, but this person is using another word, however, still cited. Why the emphasis? Many of us change the wordings, but we don't cite. We can't just lift. When we take, we have to paraphrase, summarize in our own language, yet we still cite. There are standards for citing published and unpublished work. I will just, for purpose of time, I will just say we can look at whatever referencing style that we have in our various places. We can also check the APA style, which reference I have at the back at the end of the presentation. So published work can be quotes, in-text citation, references, bibliography, books. Some of them are edited, some of them are non-edited. Journals, there are ways to reference hard copy journals and electronic journals, web pages and sites. Unpublished work can be conference papers, working papers, dissertations of other students, and newspapers. All these have to be cited appropriately. So coming to plagiarism, the Cambridge Dictionary defines plagiarism as the process or practice of using another person's ideas or work and pretending that it is your own. It's a process, it's a practice. You use another person's idea or work. It may be the idea, it may be the entire work, yet you pretend that it's your own. Sometimes it's ignorantly done, sometimes it's deliberately done. The University of Oxford defines it as presenting someone else's work or ideas as your own, with or without their consent, by incorporating into your work without full acknowledgement. So it may not be a harm to use other people's idea, but they need to be acknowledged. And you also need to, one way or the other, not lift what they have the same way it has been written. Elements of plagiarism include turning in someone else's work as your own, copying words or ideas from someone else without giving credit, failing to put a quotation in quotation marks, giving incorrect information about the source of information, changing words but copying the sentence structure of a source without giving credit, copying so many words or areas from a source that it makes up the majority of your work, whether you give credit or not. That is very important. There are different types of plagiarism. Sometimes they can be 10, they can be 20, but I just listed about 7 here. You can have complete plagiarism. That one, you carry someone's original work and you claim that it is your own. Someone else's original work and you claim it is your own. That one can be linked to number 7, which is buying of assignments and projects. You pay someone to give you an already written work or to do your work for you, and then you submit. Is plagiarism. Number 2, you can paraphrase, altering a few words, but retaining the same sentence structure as used by the original author. So you are just paraphrasing. Patchwork paraphrasing. You are stealing words and ideas from multiple sources' text and patching them together. This is very common. The writer will say, I read many materials and I was able to harmonize and synchronize them. Yet, he or she will not cite the original owner of the ideas, because in the process of weaving things together, the write-up, the sentences, and the structure might have changed. However, the original idea came from some people. They are not your original ideas. There can be self-plagiarism. You did an undergraduate project in the University of Ibadan. You are now doing MBA in the University of Lagos. You now remove the cover page of your work in the undergraduate and then updated something there and then submit it and say, at least I worked hard when I was in school. Is my work. I've not plagiarized anybody. You have actually plagiarized yourself. There can be mosaic plagiarism, where deliberately you start using synonyms. You look at the structure and you are changing the words. A lot of students do this a lot. You change words, you right click on it and look for the synonym and change it. So you are still plagiarizing. There can be accidental plagiarism. It is a mistake. You have done the work. Sometimes the idea in your head, you read it somewhere. So most of the time we have to be very careful here. We think we have ideas, but those ideas belong to others, but they are in our head for some time. We now write them down as if they are our ideas. Try as much as possible as a student to think, am I sure this is my original idea? Did I read it somewhere else? If you actually did, can you go back to that original source and cite it appropriately? I've spoken about the bind assignment and projects. What can cause plagiarism? Inadequate training and mentorship. I will speak about that with ignorance. Sometimes you can't say it's the student's fault. Of course, it's his fault. It depends on training. I could remember as an undergraduate student, you are asked to write an original essay, which is your project. And you have never written one before. You were told, go and write a project. So you asked yourself, how do I write a project? He said, go and read. And you have read, you came back, he said, go and meet your colleagues. Then you met your colleagues, they said, there is a particular project written by someone, use it as an example. In other words, nobody actually holds your hand to teach you. So you learn it by yourself. So it all depends on what you learn first. If you learn plagiarism first, I tell people, if you plagiarize in your undergraduate, you probably will plagiarize for the rest of your life, except you take a special care. So it's very important to know that training is quite crucial. Ignorance, you don't know. Sometimes people don't know. Of course, ignorance is not an excuse, but it's possible that you don't know. But now we know. Laziness and procrastination. I'm supposed to do my work for 6 months. I decide to do some other things. It's now a few weeks or 2 days or 10 days to submission or presentation of seminar. What would I do for Christ's sake? I just have to look for something and present. So you can actually plagiarize because you are lazy or because you are procrastinating. Pressure of work and inadequate timing. You are asked to take courses or teach for your lecturer, or you are a working student, yet you have deadlines and you don't want to fall behind your mates. You think twice, and you have seen a material that looks like what you're also thinking like. So most times you think, why can't I just take this thing and use now? I mean, it's understandable. So pressure of work and inadequate timing can be important. Why we mention all this is that we must take care to ensure that they don't disturb us. Another important point is availability of free materials, especially online. These days, let me say it this way, it will take a special grace of God not to plagiarize. Because anywhere you go on the internet, there are materials. Any ideas you are thinking about has already been done, one way or the other. And they are beautifully written in some places, far better than you may think of. So you are thinking of something. It's like somebody who is thinking of cooking. He had just bought fish and whatever, and he saw someone whose food is prepared already and it's on the table. He just thinks, why do I have to go to the kitchen through the stress and do pandemic? Yeah, why can't I just take it? I mean, so it takes some special. There are so many materials around. Unlike, I mean, when I was doing my undergraduate, internet wasn't that as much as this. It was just coming up. So we had to go to the serial section of the library. We had to go through books and start looking, and you know what that means? I mean, if you've ever been to that serial section in the University of Ibadan before, you understand what I'm saying. It's very big. It's possible that students will take one article or journal and place it in another shelf, and you are looking for it. So until you read, you will not be able to even see ideas. So you have to read the whole paper to even pick a sentence. But these days, just type the exact sentence on the internet. It can give you 1,001 places where that thing has been mentioned. So that thing is there, availability of free material, especially online. Another thing that makes plagiarism to be high is hard copy nature of some old research materials in the library. Why is that important? If you plagiarize and you copy online, you may be caught, because sometimes your supervisor may place it on Turnitin or Plagiarism or Authenticate or wherever, or in some places, which I've done before, you just type it generally on Google and you see where the person copied and pasted it from. But if it is an old hard copy document project, so students do this a lot. You go to University of Illinois, you carry a project and submit it in University of Ife, and just do some little things. And so the hard copy nature is also an incentive. So the students in Ife will give the one in Illinois a project, the one in Illinois will give the one in Ife a project, and everything is going on well. Another thing is that non-integration of student projects to the internet, which is related to the other one. If they are on the internet, it will be more difficult. Poor interconnectivity among the university. So sometimes, I mean, we have heard these cases before where some professors were later apprehended that they copied their PhD work from another university in the country or from outside the country. So if there are interconnectivity among universities, that will reduce. Not getting caught and lack of punishment. That is very important, especially for peer pressure. When your mates are copying and pasting, they are plagiarizing, and nobody catches them. In fact, sometimes they are even celebrated. And you are struggling, you cannot write 5 pages. And somebody has written 100 pages. You think twice, except you have integrity. So if others are not got caught, they are not caught, you may think twice. That is also linked to the next one, which is now recognition of students with original work, which are similarly substandard or less voluminous. There are undergraduate students, there are master students, there are PhD students that are working very hard to do the work by themselves. But because their work doesn't sound like that of experts, or they are not voluminous, it is possible that your supervisor says, what are you doing? Look at your mates. And you know what your mates are doing, and you cannot come and say, it's only me that is working. I mean, others are not working. You don't want to do that. Peer pressure, panic, and lack of confidence. Sometimes somebody has asked me before, are you sure you are the one that wrote your pages? I said, yes, I did. He said, you wrote all these pages from your head? I said, I tried the one. I mean, there are aspects of it that are literature review, but I cited them appropriately. There are those that are originally from me. He said, but how can somebody write something as big as this from his head? It's not possible now. So, so he said, I'll look at my small head. Why would I? So lack of confidence is there. Sometimes we have overdue respect for authority. If Samuelson, if Farmer are French, if Gibson, if Schiller has said, if whoever has said this before, what would I say? Can't I just leave what they have said? So we have that. How do we solve this problem? We need to develop personal commitment to academic integrity. We need to read relevant materials and seek help from those whose work we admire. Mentorship is very important in doing a good work. We need to build our knowledge, bearing in mind that there are things that we don't know and that we need to know. Therefore, we must create time for them, because we normally create time for what we think is important to us. Avoid procrastination. How do you do that? Break your work into smaller parts and start executing them gradually before your deadline. Don't wait till they announce the deadline. Even if you are righteous, if you don't like plagiarism and there is deadline and you must submit, you will think twice before you will not plagiarize. You have to recognize that not all materials are useful, right? And even the ones that are useful, they are contribution from others. Thus, you need to cite them and still contribute yours. Our schools need to place research materials, including student projects and thesis online, so that we can catch people who will go and copy projects from other places. They need to upload it on their portals. There must be a central portal that connects schools. It's something that we need to be thinking about, especially in our country and this part of the world. The schools need to install plagiarism software. Some of them are doing already. The ones that have not done, it's very important they do so. And students themselves will need to use this plagiarism software to even look at what they have done before they submit them finally. There's a practice that I also see. People plagiarize a lot. They put it in the software, and they whatever it catches them, they will now go and adjust that side. So it's a kind of iteration. We are just deceiving ourselves. Let's cite appropriately. Supervisors also need to take time to read students' work so that they know quality from quantity. And then we need to reward quality. It is good to compare ourselves with others and be pressured by others, but we should know that what will take us far in academic community is our uniqueness. Therefore, it is important we develop that aspects of our life. It is important to respect authority and quote them, but we should also see ourselves as future authorities. Therefore, we need to lay a good foundation for ourselves. If those authorities were plagiarizing when they were like us, they will never become the authority that they are today. And also learn to cite appropriately. Let me leave you with this joke. The guy is complaining about his supervisor. He says, if you cut and paste it from the web, the man will say that you have plagiarized. The other one say, me, I didn't cut and paste. I printed the document and typed it by myself. Is that plagiarism? I mean, I type it. Say no to plagiarism. If you read it, please cite it. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Afolabi, maybe you stop sharing. Okay, thank you. I want to thank everybody once again for the opportunity to be with us once again today. So we're going to now go into the question and answer time. Please, if you have a question, just locate a place where you can raise. If you go towards the end of your screen, you will see a place where you can click on raising up your hand. When you raise up your hand, I will unmute you, then you talk. Well, I guess that it was a good presentation. It's just at the time, and there are so many things to talk about. So as you raise up your hand, I'm going to take you one by one. When I unmute you, I will mention your name, and then you can go ahead with. I'll take the first person I see here, Mrs. Bosse. Bosse Comfort Olokpade. I don't know whether you have another question, but let me unmute you. So you can ask your question, ma'am. Madam, you can unmute yourself and talk.
Hello. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can you hear me now, sir?
Yes, very well.
I have this question to ask. I am preparing for my oral defense, and I don't know I'm sorry to say, but I don't know the likely questions they might ask, like in economics. I don't know. This is the first time I am going to face this oral defense. So I don't know the kind of questions like they ask like that. Is it based on my project work or outside? I don't know. I just want a clarity. Thank you.
Okay, I will direct your question to Dr. Folabi Olowo Okere to answer. Dr. Folabi Olowo Okere, she's asking that she has a defense and she wants to know which area they are going to ask questions. Is it from her thesis or from other areas? So Dr. Flavin, you can unmute yourself and then answer the question if you are there. Dr. Flavin there. Please unmute yourself and talk, Dr. Afolabi.
Okay, so, okay, I think I can speak now. Yes, thank you. So the first thing you need to know is that first think about if you are the interviewer or examiner, what will you also ask the students? Just put yourself on the other side. That is very important. The other thing is that see your horror as going for an interview. Always, I interview a lot of people myself. Impression is very important. 50% of it will be what you know or what you have done. I mean, roughly. The other 50% will be your confidence and the kind of impression you can make on the examiners. So what am I trying to say? The first thing is understand your work. Understand your work. Read what you have done. So understand your work, read what you have done, understand your topic, objectives, the methodology that you have used, what has been said in the literature, how you have done what you have done, and your key results and the implications. Everything I just mentioned is contained in your abstract. So if I've been asked today, can you tell us what you have done? I just fill out if I've written a good abstract, not just to memorize anyway, I just fill out my abstract to the person, telling them the issue of interest, how I've done it, what others have done, what I've contributed, what the implication of my work is. In 2 minutes, I can summarize even a work that is 500 pages. But when I do that, the other 50%, I must do that confidently, right? For people to know that I know what I'm doing. I must make good impression on the interviewers. Thank you.
Thank you for the answer. I guess, madam, your question has been answered. Okay,
Yes,
like you said, you need to have a good grasp of the work. In fact, your abstract explains everything. The issue at your fingertips, the main objective of your work, the method you have used, the findings and implication of your result, and the recommendation. Those things you can say within 1 minute or 2 minutes. In fact, in some defense, they don't expect you to use PowerPoint. So within 10 minutes, tell us what you have done. So it is your work, and you should be able to say it. And so your questions will come within the context of what you have done, okay? Okay, so madam, you can mute yourself. I want to pick somebody else to be able to ask a question. I saw Daru Balami. Please, you can unmute yourself, Daru Balami, and talk. Daru Balami, you can talk. Unmute yourself. Hello. Hello. Just unmute yourself, sir. You can go ahead, sir. Are you there, sir? Daru Balami. Or maybe I should pick somebody else. I will take Dr. Okay, let me pick somebody else because it's not talking. I'm not hearing him. Dr. Timothy. Dr. Timothy, you can unmute yourself and talk.
Okay, thank you very much. Hearing me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I have a question. I want to thank the facilitators for a job well done. But before I start, let me first of all appreciate, I'm seeing my professor, Professor Ada Anyinwe, and my supervisor, Dr. Clement Igudaro. Let me just quickly appreciate them. But my question is to you, sir, Professor Erega. When you were doing your making your presentation, you talked about sometimes a situation where you have a lack of co-integration, and you specifically mentioned a situation where somebody could not find a co-integration between growth and government expenditure, and you said that government expenditure was through capital formation. I think that is I agree with that. But if you want to, is it that if you have a situation where you have a model and you are regressing government expenditure on growth and is passing through gross capital formation, is it that you bring gross capital formation into the variable, or to be able to find the expression, or you interact government expenditure and capital formation to be able to get the desired result? Dr. Rega, so how do you treat this?
Okay, thank you for your question. The reason why I made that statement was because I was trying to say that when you are modeling, what guides your model is theoretical framework. Even though there are two issues that you are interested in, it can be FDI and growth. It can be government expenditure and growth, okay? But your dependent variable is growth. And that is why you need the theoretical framework that explains the link between growth and government expenditure. It's the reason why you need theoretical framework. Because if you don't, establish a good theoretical framework and understand the way in which government expenditure intertwine with growth, you will be able to, when you run your regression, understand what the regression is saying, because regression is an estimate. And so for you to properly situate your regression result within the context of the issues, you need to understand the dynamics of the dependent variable. And that is why you do theoretical framework. Okay, so let me come back to your question. Somebody is doing the impact of government expenditure on growth, and then he just put growth as a function of government expenditure and some other variables that don't make sense in a growth model. When you have that kind of specification, I can guarantee you that when you do your estimation, you will not find an impact of expenditure on growth. And so the reason why you need to understand the theoretical issues behind the dynamics of growth vis-a-vis to the link to expenditure. And this is why I say that, you know, expenditure does not have direct effect of growth. One, it does not have instantaneous effect of growth. And so if you understand the theory behind the growth link and expenditure, you will know. And that will help you to model that issue very well. And I take it, for instance, if government release money today in this year budget, they release 2 trillion, 2 point something trillion capital expenditure. If you put that in your model, it won't have effect, because the capital project has to be completed between 2-3 years. Okay, so that means that you need to lag government expenditure to be able to have effect on growth. So what I'm saying is that it is when you understand the dynamics of the link between expenditure and growth that you will know that if I am specifying, I don't need a static model when I'm specifying, or else the impact will not be there. That is one. Two, it does not have direct effect. What I mean is that expenditure is money. Expenditure will be used in projects like building of schools, hospitals, on road. So what they do is that those things are fixed capital. They are part of physical capital. So expenditure will go through those things. So in your growth model, if you don't have capital in your growth model, you will not have effects. So what am I saying? There are key variables that drive growth in the growth theory. If those ones are not there, and if you include that your other concept that is the main thing in your variable, you don't expect it. That is different from talking about intermediating effect. Intermediating effect is when you, because probably your justification is to look at the intermediating effect, and you would have been able to buttress in your justification, in your problem statement, that your key concern is intermediating, and capital formation is one of them. Then you can now think about either interacting or including and not including, and look at how government expenditure behave. That's a different thing entirely. That's what I mean. Thank you. So I hope I addressed your issue, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Thank you. I think I'm okay with it.
Okay, I'll call on somebody else for questioning. I'll call on the I don't know whether Daryl Balami is ready or is clear or not. Okay, I will mute Professor Ada Ayinwe to talk. First and foremost, you used to be my lecturer in the University of Lagos. I mean, University of Benin. Professor Ada Ayinwe, please, you can speak, ma'am.
That is my.
I've muted everybody. I want everybody to mute them.
My focus is on auditing.
So, Professor
I want to keep rural studies. So please, somebody said different. You have.
Or can we send a question by?
Prof, you can mute yourself and talk, man.
Hello, sir.
We are not hearing you, man.
By chat.
Dr. Idris, please, I give you the permission to talk. Please, you can talk. Dr. Idris used to be my colleague in NDIC. Please, you can go ahead, sir. Dr. Idris, you can unmute yourself and talk. Please, you can send your question if we can't hear you, and then I can read your question out. Dr. Idris, just unmute yourself. Hello? Akiola Olanipekun, please, you can talk.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
And thank you for the presentation, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
All the speakers, they made much emphasis on reading literature, and literature. It looks as if for us to have a meaningful thesis, it must actually start from the literature review with what I gathered. Yes, I am a beginner.
But for us to have what?
A meaningful thesis is like we have to start from literature review, as in reading aggressively. Now, the challenge I have personally is that when you log on, when you try to download, you now see some of these sources require payment. Is it necessary that one has to be subscribing to some of these sites before one can get some of these materials? Or what is the practical guideline? How can one get enough material to read and digest? Thank you.
Okay, I will call on Dr. Adeniyi, Oluwatosin Adeniyi. I will mute him to be able to answer your question. Dr. Adeniyi, just unmute yourself.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so I hope you got his question, sir.
Thank you very much. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so very excellent question, Akinola, if you can hear me. So I'll take your questions in now. We emphasized the centrality of a very rigorous and critical literature review for a good thesis because, like my colleague Dr. Olowokere said, there is nothing that one is really doing. That's why it's research. Okay, things have been sought in different places in a new light, or you are extending the frontiers of what we know. Marginally, you are just extending it by a little bit. So literature search is central. That is not to suggest that all ideas that can become thesis compatible have to come from the literature directly. Okay, as economists, we also sometimes assume or pretend that we are scientists. And as we know, one of the things that scientists do is that they do observations. So ideas can also come from observations. Yes. Ideas can come from your understanding of the context. Ideas can come from what you hear in the popular media about economic developments and all of that. But when it comes from that source, literature becomes a guiding principle for organizing your thought. So the place for a commitment to literature and a submission to the process of going through it and understanding it and digesting it and synthesizing, it goes without saying. So I think that answers the question. Literature is central, but that is not the only way of generating thesis compatible ideas. But when you get those ideas through other mechanisms, the literature becomes a principle for organizing the thoughts eventually. On the second point, I don't know whether you saw some of the slides that I showed. I actually have, I'm sure these slides will be shared. There are open access sources from which you can get access to some of this literature. The paywall idea is a big limitation, but combining a number of these sources iteratively, you would get a reasonable percentage of the papers that you would need for your thesis. One of the things I did during my thesis days also was that I also leveraged on my networks. I had colleagues and friends who were studying in the UK, who were studying in Australia, in the US. So I just had a set of about 6 or 7 of them. So if I search through all the means available to me and I can't find, and I send to the 7 of them and I can archive them in my own database. So it's difficult to gain access. Most universities don't have this subscription, but if we can be diligent with the search, there are smart ways of going about it. So those would be my responses for now.
Thank you.
You have to, Professor Bide, you have to unmute yourself. Professor Bide, you are muted.
Sorry. I thought that you are hearing me. So I was trying to say that he has buttressed the fact that literature review is very, very, very important. Important in the sense that what you are doing is not coming from outside of the literature. There is something that's already existing before, and you need to situate yourself within what is existing in the literature. Therefore, you need to understand what is happening in the system, in that literature or in that field, and then what is necessary and yes to be done is what you want to do. So you need the literature for that. Very, 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 very important. Very, very important, because you need to understand the channel and the dimensions in which things play out in the study or in the area you are interested in. And that literature is one key area. When I started saying that, for instance, me, if I want to write problem statements, sometimes I might write problem statement without looking at the literature. You know why? Because I might have a proper understanding about how things work. For instance, I met someone that said he was doing FDI and growth. And I asked him, can you explain to me, how will FDI impact on growth? He couldn't explain it. You must be able to understand the different channels which FDI will flow to growth. So many channels, from capital flows to exchange rate, from capital flows to money supply, where CBN will have to sterilize, channels. And these channels must be well explained, understand, and then stressed in the work, and then you'll not be able to find which of them you are going into and why is it relevant for the case you are doing. When you understand that, you can go ahead and write a good problem statement or introduction. So literature is very, very key. Okay, I will give Dr. Lo Okere the opportunity to answer a question somebody sent. And that question is that, how do I select a PhD thesis topic?
Okay, thank you, Professor Bright. So I was actually busy putting some questions down that were in the chat room, and I thought I would just talk to them briefly. Then I will come to this.
Yes, go ahead and talk to them.
Okay, thank you. So I think I've seen a lot of comments about people have said they use a particular software, plagiarism software. The one that people mention most is Turnitin, and that it said their work, there were plagiarism in their work. Somebody said it's picking references as part of plagiarism, and that if you didn't pick references, the similarity index would have been lower. So what I would say is that, yeah, it's understandable that some of these software pick references. However, the reason why most of them also have a threshold is because they know that there is no way one thing or the other will fall, especially references, into your work. So if a software, for instance, I'm not giving you a standard, there are different standards depending on schools and journal and the software. If a particular software is saying you are on 30%, and you think that if you didn't count references, you would have been on 15%, then I would say, why don't you do a good work so that the 15 or 10% is reporting, it's actually your references.
Okay, Williams, please, I'm in a webinar and I'm using...
So it's important to know that they will pick references, but that is the reason why they have threshold. So do a good job so that if I thought it's going to pick anything, it will be references. And when it pick references and few other places, it will still be lower than the minimal level required. Somebody also asked a question about how reliable are they? Yeah, many of them are reliable. It depends. Some of them are free version. The one that are paid version may be more reliable than the one that are free version. Of course, we understand that. We also understand that some of them that are free, when you put your work there, they also store your work so that they can put it in their database and start using it to compare other people's work in the future. So that's why some people will go for the one that are paid. But for students, sometimes you want to use the free one, hoping that if it gives you something low, by the time you send the publication, article for publication or submission of your thesis, and they use the paid one, even though the paid one may be relatively higher, it will not be so high that your work will be disqualified. So I would say that, because somebody asked the question, I did it, it gives me 15%, the journal got back and says it's 25%. Yes, because it depends on the software that are being used. So if it is free version, it gives you 15%, and Turnitin that is paid is giving 25%. Do your work so that you have 5% on your own side, so that by the time you bring it back, it's less than 20%. So now coming to the question of how do you select a PhD topic? That's a big one. I know Dr. Tosin presented a lot of things about that, but there are many ways to select topics. Most times, for people that are not in academics or that are working, maybe they were outside academics and they now came back to academics, or they are still working and they want to do PhD, they may have some faint ideas about realities. So there is something they've seen in their workplace, there is something they've read somewhere, there are practical knowledge that they have, and there are areas of interest that they do have. They can bring those back to the university and say, I want to research on this area. However, for some of us we finished undergraduate, we moved to masters, we finished master, we moved to PhD, and we didn't work anywhere, we may not have the luxury of that reality that some people have. So most of our experience will come from literature. So many of us may have to read largely, sometimes just comb everywhere. Sometimes if we are fortunate and we have a lecturer who has a particular area of interest, and we say we want to write our work in labor economics, as somebody has said, then we'll start looking for frontier of knowledge in that area and issues that may be of interest to us in that area. Some of us, we may not have the luxury of somebody guiding us, so we have to read a lot and to look for what is interesting. But my advice is this: if you have somebody in an area of interest, especially the one that you have taken courses, postgraduate courses in, that you find interesting, because thesis will take a long time, sometimes 4 years, sometimes 5 years. If you are so fortunate, it can be 8 years or 10 years. It has to be something, it has to be a partner for life. It has to be something you will like at the end of the day. So if you will not like it, don't even start it. Unfortunately, sometimes supervisors can impose their area of interest on you. So it's just like your parents married your wife for you. So you just take it and love the wife. So it's possible like that way. So, but it's possible that you may also find that it's actually a loving wife that your mother has selected for you from the village. But any way you see it, I said there are about 3 ways. It may be from your experience where you are working or things that you know and that you are bringing back to academics. It may be because of your supervisors or courses that you have taken and you have a narrowed area. It may also be because you have just read widely anyhow to pick a topic. But my caution is this: look for something that you find interesting or that you may turn to something that you find interesting. And if you are coming from outside, note this: your experience as a professional, when you bring it back to academics, you have to tweak it a bit, because the way you see things is not the way academics will see things. Academics will see in a very narrow way, very, very narrow, a small issue, but deep. Professional will see something that is not deep, but wide. In the professional world, it's from experience that you establish knowledge. In academics, you shift frontier of knowledge. So whatever experience you are bringing from outside, when you get to academics, you must look for a way to establish a literature in academics. Otherwise, there won't be a strong theoretical relationship with what you are doing. Good luck.
Thank you, Dr. Olokere, for the answer. Before I pick somebody, I have 1 or 2 questions here also that were sent. I'm going to mention your name, and then I will talk to it. Somebody called Obuneke Bob. Obuneke Bob. Please, sorry, I'm pronouncing your name not very well. You asked a question that you want to have an hypothetical example of the difference between theoretical review and theoretical framework. Okay? So please, I got your question, so I want to answer your question. You want to know an hypothetical example of the difference between theoretical review and theoretical framework. And I take it this way. Maybe your work is looking at the impact of economic growth on investment. Let me use that word. Okay? And so your dependent variable in your work is investment. Okay? Your dependent variable is investment. Okay? You're looking at the impact of economic growth on investment. Okay, that's your work. And your dependent variable is investment. In your theoretical review, you are expected to review theories that explains investment. That is theory that explain the determinant of investment. And there are very many. Number 1 of them is basically the classical theory of investment. Okay, we also have what we call the Keynesian theory of investment. Okay, we have the Tobin skew, we have the accelerator principle. So many of these theories, okay, profitability theory and all of that. Keynes also came up with marginal efficiency of capital, marginal efficiency of investment. So these are theories, okay, that should be found in your theoretical review. But out of these theories, one should be linking economic growth to investment. Okay, so out of them that link now economic growth to investment is the one that you now pick that will now form as your theoretical framework. Now, when you are putting it down as a theoretical framework, you'll be able to explain how, you know, the theory explain the link between growth and investment and the assumption behind those theory and the reasons why it will ever have positive or negative effect, and that's based on the assumption. And maybe if something is relaxed in the assumption, what will happen? The theory would have buttressed all of those, talking about the intuition. So one of the theories that link them become your theoretical framework that you have reviewed, and it becomes a framework in which you now go a bit further to explain the details of that theory, taking cognizance of the assumptions, taking cognizance of the issues around the assumptions and how the link will interplay, and then giving you a leeway to be able to now model your empirical specification. That is the link between theoretical framework and theoretical review. Somebody also asked a question. He wants to know what will determine the data length of the data length that could make you to use full mean group or something. That is methodological issue. One of the days we are thinking that we will sit down here and attend to methodological issues very well. And I also link that to somebody that asked a question on whether you can use questionnaire for labor economics or not. You can use your problem statement and the issues around data determine the method you are going to use. Okay, when you articulate a good problem statement and then availability of no data or data in respect to the research questions you have, now give you a leeway to whether you should use secondary data or primary data. In a PhD thesis, primary data is allowed, but it is a problem, the research questions and linking to data that determines what method to use, okay, whether it's going to be surveyed or not. Now, for the person who asked the PMIN group question, PMIN group fall within the context of, time dimension analysis, because that is why sometimes it's classified under what you call heterogeneity, dynamic heterogeneity panel or something, okay? So since it falls within that context, that means falling within the context of what is ARODL, ECM kind of a thing. It means that you must have long time dimension to be able to do the analysis, long time dimension, because it will be doing a number of lags, and that will make you to lose degree of freedom. And so you need a long time dimension as against, the cross-sectional to be able to use the method. But like I said, we'll come back and discuss more, put one day for methodological, analysis. These even primary data. In fact, we are looking at somebody will come and make a presentation on primary data. And when the person make a presentation of primary data and the different methods in survey analysis, then we will be able to now talk about methodological issues as regards to your topic and appropriateness and all of that. Okay, so that is one of the things we are going to do. Another question, somebody said, how can the issue of area of specialization and supervisor-student relationship be addressed for PhD thesis? I want to say here that supervisors and students, a supervisor is a mentor. A mentor is somebody that passed the baton to the next person, okay? And so mentorship is not coaching. Mentorship is that you want to groom somebody like you, and therefore you should have a cordial relationship with the person for the person to be able to open up, and then you can be able to mentor the person, because you are also, there's what you call overlapping generation model, which says that people will not live forever. So you live in the first period, then you exit, other people will leave. If you know that you are supposed to transfer knowledge to the next person to continue. So I won't be able to say much about that because it depends on the policy of the university. For instance, for my university, we have what we call mentorship program that allow that student have a voice and then give you the room to interface, because when you are doing a PhD, you are almost a colleague. And so if you're able to interact at colleague level, that is the only way you'll be able to even be able to relate and be able to come out with ideas and discuss ideas among yourself, to be able to groom yourself, or the person, the supervisor, or be able to groom yourself. So I won't be able to talk much about that because it is more of, university policy and that personal issue. Because for me, if I'm the supervisor, I know that I'm grooming someone that should be better than me, and that means that the person should be my friend and all of that. What we see in this part of the world is that sometimes PhD has turned to policy, humility and dobale, and that is why sometimes we don't have that relationship. Like I said, it is a personal issue, and sometimes we pray that you have a good supervisor, and that is what I can say basically about that. So I will probably call on somebody to be able to ask their question.
So, can I answer one question?
No, Dr. Fladi, you can take questions also.
Okay, so thank you. I think you've spoken about the labor economics person very beautifully.
Yeah.
So as he said, I want the person to also note again that if you can't get a secondary data for your analysis, you will still go by the way of primary. So if you can't get secondary data for the kind of thing you want to do, nothing stops you from using questionnaire, as long as you design the questionnaire appropriately. What we have noticed over time is that people in the area of finance and economy sometimes are poor designers of questionnaire, while people in psychology, counseling, sociology, and health-related issue, they design better. So you can learn from them to design good questions. You can learn from them to design good questionnaire. So please, nothing stops you from using questionnaire, especially if that is also what is used by people in the same area that you have it. Okay, so the question I also want to ask.
Okay, click on a place called join. I don't know whether it's join meeting and then put the ID and the password.
So somebody else asked a question about effects of audit firm rotation on financial reporting quality. The person is asking, what theory and how do you select the relevant variables? Dr. Tosin and Professor Bright have spoken a lot about selection of topic and variables. Literature will be very important. What is done in literature can be a good guidance to you. That is one. Two, you must also have an understanding of what is obtainable in your country. Some of them would have been documented even in academic literature. For instance, audit firm rotation, if I understand what you are trying to do, which is your thesis, has to do with when firms change their external auditors. And there are rules on how and when firms can change their external auditors. You can use an external auditor for a period of time, renewable for another period, then disengage them, but you won't engage them until another period, which is called a cool-off period. You can still re-engage them. So the fact that you rotate doesn't mean that you have sacked them. Law doesn't even allow you to have an external auditor forever. So you can change them. So you need to have understanding of that. Then if you have that understanding, you need to know what else then do you want to use to measure rotation. Is rotation the normal regulatory cycle of auditors, or is it when you voluntarily disengage an auditor, even though it is not yet time? You need to understand that. Then when you say financial reporting quality, you also need to know what do you want to use to measure financial reporting quality. Is it whether they show up something that they are supposed to show up? Is it whether their results are timely? Is it whether they report some governance issue or ESG issues? So you need to know what is quality, and then before you discuss. But I think the literature is very rich in this area. I've read quite a number of literature in that area myself. I understand that you cannot be starved of relevant literature. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Olokere, for. I don't know whether Dr. Adeni, are you there, sir? You can unmute yourself if you can also help to take questions.
Can I say something, please?
Yes, my prof.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to say that the facilitators or speakers today have really done very well.
Prof, you have to be close to this thing.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm proud of all of you who have today and analyzed on topics, and I'm very, very pleased. Like I said, when we leave, we have people to really stand in perfectly well. The comments I want to make are with regards to the following. One is abstract, and that people like the lady who asked on how can he face the exam that is coming. Once you know you are abstract, you have read it, and since it's short, you can read it over and over again, and start to know your motivation there. You know the method you have used, your results.
Prof, it's like your network is not too good, though.
Oh, is that so? I thought, can you hear now?
Yes. Okay, you are clearer now.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that the person that asked a question on how to face the oncoming exam, the Viva, that if the person knows his or her abstract very well, he will be able to deal with questions that will come his or her way. So writing a abstract about of your thesis is very, very important. So another thing I want to look at is it has on theoretical, literature review, and then theoretical framework. Now, in the literature review, first speaker actually.
Prof, we cannot hear you. Maybe you send it across now. We cannot hear you. Your network is wavering. Dr. Adeni, unmute yourself. You can take questions.
Okay. Yes, Prof. I think I'm on now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks to you and Dr. Olowokere for those excellent responses to some of the questions. So I won't go over the ones that you have dealt with. I would just make a few suggestions on some of the questions that were raised. Stanley Omuemos, sorry if I didn't pronounce your name correctly. His question is about whether you can find journals on finance that publish just strictly survey articles. Just like I mentioned, Journal of Economic Surveys while I was making my presentation. I tried to do a quick search. I didn't find a precise journal, but I found a short list of journals where you are very likely to find review articles, and I will just read out the list quickly. So there's Journal of Finance, there's Journal of Banking and Finance, and then there's Review of Financial Studies.
Dr. This is like your network, Abi. It is network.
Professor Bai, you can take over.
Okay.
Those are three top outlets where they are.
It's like it's gone. Okay, somebody sent a question. He said, the person said, is it conventional to have more than one model for a PhD thesis? And second, is it also conventional to tie every model to the specific objective? Okay, first and foremost, I want to say that it is possible for you to have more than one model for a PhD thesis. And this can happen in this way. For instance, you are doing, let's say, the impact of, let's say, environment on exports and on, let's say, investment. I don't know, that is, I'm just thinking, you know, your interest is that how does environment impact on environment, impact on agri production, and at the same time, that's environmental effect on agri, and at the same time on export. In that way, you have two dependent variables. So you are expected to have two equations because what is driving the dynamics of each of them is different. And so they have different theoretical framework. Therefore, you are expected to have one for agri and then one for export, okay? But if you are, your second question is that, is it also conventional to tie every model to a specific objective? It is possible that you can do your thesis with just one model, one empirical model. And in that empirical model, you have variables that capture each of the objective, okay? In that way, you don't need to say objective one, this is the model, objective two, this is the model, because I have seen that in some other universities where they will say this objective is going to be achieved by so-so model, this objective is going to be achieved by so-so model. But just one model, it's possible that you have your variable captured in that model to be able to explain, you know, your dependent variable. For instance, you are looking at the impact of something on your dependent variable, and let's say inflation on economic growth, and one of the interests is to look at the impact of inflation on economic growth. There's the other objective to look at the threshold. The two of them can be captured in one model because there are too many ways you can capture threshold. Threshold can be captured with a dynamic model, with a nonlinear kind of model like what we have as a quadratic kind of specification, okay? But at the same time, Ansin also have a way of capturing what we call threshold. So, and in all of these method or procedures, that model will also have the inflation at the same time, if possible, the threshold variable. So one model can be able to achieve those two objectives. In that way, you don't need too many models to be able to write objective one. This is the model, objective two, this is the model. But taking away from that, there are universities that they expect that each objective that you have, you'll be able to explain which of the analysis you want to use to achieve them. That is a different case. Maybe part of your thesis, they expect that it should be very explicit. In that way, you should be able to buttress in your methodology which of your objective will be achieved by which method as you have, in case you have so many different methods. And that is one thing that can play out. Okay. I guess that I have answered that question. I want to go to another question by somebody. Somebody said, what is the estimated tenure of an MPhil PhD? All things being equal. MPhil PhD should lead you to a PhD certificate. But there are some universities that because you are supposed to do conversion to PhD. So if you don't pass your conversion exam, they just award you with certificate and you go. MPhil and you go. Okay? But as all things being equal, whether it's MPhil, PhD, or PhD thesis, if you are hardworking, you should be through within 3 years. Minimum 3 years. Minimum 3 years. But sometimes you can have some kind of difficulties with one, probably because you are also not too serious, so that I won't say it's supervisors. On the second part, supervisor can also play a role, okay? On the other one is that sometimes you have a topic that has so many issues. And so anytime you are presenting, you keep having issues, and so you keep delaying, okay? And as soon as in schools where you have to do coursework also, you are not really passing well or something, and that process of passing your exam can also delay you. But all things being equal, like you said, you know, the word all things being equal is ceteris paribus, meaning that you have done all that is needed to do. Within 3 years, you should be through. Within 3 years, you should be through. You should be through. But that is not to say that it must be 3 years. It depends on what you are doing. Because sometimes I've seen people who are doing something, some topics, and they need to travel to go and learn some methodology. Okay, that will take them some time, and they will have to go, then return back before they start. Okay, so the process is sometimes personal, and the topic you are doing, your supervisor, and then the issues around your topic also. And sometimes the school policy, in terms of keep tracking the progress of students, very, very important. Okay. I don't know whether Dr. Adeni is back. Somebody asked a question that how can the issue of area of specialization, you know, can your thesis, you know, help you to have area of specialization or something? The truth is that your area is determined by your thesis. Sometimes your supervisor, because of interest, like Dr. Olokre said, can give you an area. It's like you said, marrying you a wife that you don't like, but at the end, you just find out along the line, you like the wife and you keep marrying her and you love her. But the truth is that, it's like one of my professors from Canada said that his topic was different from what the interest was different from what the supervisor wanted. But he has to obey the supervisor and do what the supervisor wanted. But he was doing what he liked by the side. And so by the time he was finished with his thesis, he was also be able to project, you know, produce a paper, a good paper from what he liked, and publish that paper, and then continue from that part. So sometimes you will do a thesis and then leave that area and go to another area to specialize. But let me also tell you this. After your senior lecturer as an academic, what determines whether you're going to be an associate professor or as a professor is a function of your area of specialization. And they see that from the proportion of your publications in your CV. Your proportion of publications, a percentage of them must come from that area for them to justify that you are a professor in this area. And so sometimes I advise people that after your thesis, you know, keep working on an area you want to specialize. Let it reflect more in your publication, even when you collaborate with people. What we find in this part of the world is that sometimes because there are grants coming, and because of those grants, we keep, you know, somebody who is in a macroeconomics area, international finance, we find themselves in environment, okay? So before you know it's in poverty, before you know it's in inequality, so many areas, because probably some grants are coming, you keep working in so many areas. And like my people will say that if you win in so many places, it will not phone back to you. But if you keep winning in one place, it will phone back to you. So it's always good that you focus on the focus so that you can become the focus. So please keep, even though it's good that you involve yourself in some other knowledge, but please focus on the key focus area you have interest, and let your your research, even beyond your thesis, if you want to deviate from it, you know, be on that area. And I can guarantee you that you can develop and create a niche for yourself in that area if you really understand the literature and then develop yourself in that area. I don't know whether Dr. Adeni is back. Hello? If it's not back, this meeting will end soon. And so I would have loved to give some key. I saw somebody that raised up his hand, Techno. Like I don't know the name, that's why I didn't want to pick this thing. Okay, so I want to give some information. Hello, sir. Are you? Who was talking now? I want to give some information as we bring to a close. Please, I want to advise that there is a website that I've shared on. If you check now, I'm going to share it again. On that website, we are going to upload this recording, and then we are still going to upload all the presentations. It is when you sign up in the website and log in that you have access to what you have here in terms of, that's why you can have access to the material presented and the recording, all the slides. As we keep teaching, we are going to be uploading so many things, especially when we come back from methodological issues and so many issues. So when you log in, then you have access to this material, okay? One other thing that you also find in that website is that there is a place where mentees can meet mentors. Where you can, if you have issues, you can go to that place and click register as a mentee, and then you can upload any question for us to answer. We can answer you. You can even upload the PDF file of some part of your thesis that is giving you problem, and you want us to address it. We'll come back to you. What we are trying to build is a network of mentors that will be on that website, linked to mentees, and we can assign you to good mentors that can mentor you going forward. But before we build that we have a number of us that are already there who can mentor us. And the mentoring process is very, very, very free, because we want to actually develop capacity, tapping into the resources available. And so what we are doing is that if you go to the website, you can register as a mentor or as a mentee, and then we'll look at your pedigree, and if you are a student, we'll assign you to somebody. If you have issue with that person, you can come back to us. Definitely, you have a good mentoring process as you progress on your thesis or on your research. So the website is there available for you to access so many things. In fact, there are a number of things we'll come back to teach. One of them is to teach about, key theoretical issues. When you meet students and ask them, explain to me, for instance, what is the link between what you are doing, what does it mean, and what it links. They find it difficult to understand the theory. So we are also going to come up with a teaching that will teach theoretical issues, linking concepts together. How does FDI, how does capital flows link to something without looking at the literature? What does it mean? Because we have done this thing in micro and macro, but we really don't understand them. And sometimes because we don't, like Dr. Olowokere said, because we have not been to the practice, like working in CBN, NDIC, or SEC, or some of those places, we lose track. We don't have the grasp of the practice or the reality, and that also affects us. So we'll come back with some kind of teaching that will also address that. What I'm saying is that at the end of today's meeting, we'll upload all of that you need, and then going forward, you'll be able to access so many other materials. Last thing I want to say is this, and I want to thank all of you that have participated. Please, if your school is interested on your own, you think that we should have an interface with your student, we can include more people in this, more people that will go beyond our 3. We are more than 3, okay? We can bring in more other resource persons. All you need to do is to send us a mail. On the website, there is a mail, an email address. Send us a mail, and then what we do is that by the time you send us a mail, you can set up the Zoom meeting for us, and we'll interface with your students one by one, taking them topic by topic as they have issues and address those issues. Just contact us through the email. We'll do it free of charge. It's for free. Because our purpose is not money. Our purpose is to make meaning and make impact and develop capacity across board in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. So these are some of the things we have in the website that you can leverage on. Once again, I want to thank you. I've seen so many of your questions, but I want to recognize the presence of some other persons that we have here. I want to recognize the presence of, Dr. Nyewe, Professor Nyewe. I saw you. I saw that you couldn't send in your message. It was unintentional. It was because of your network. but I recognize your presence. I also recognize every person that is here. Professor Lege was here. I recognize your presence, and I want to thank you to be here. Everyone that is here, we appreciate you so much for being here. Okay. I want to also appreciate Wale. Wale is my friend and my secondary schoolmate. I thank you for joining from the UK. Thank you for participating. And so many other persons that I cannot mention your name. The truth is that together, we are going to work together to develop capacity in the area of research, not just PhD thesis. If I will come back with some of that teaching that has to do with winning a research grant, how do you write a proposal to win a research grant? We'll come up with all of these issues, and we are developing material along all of this. Our purpose, like I said, is to impart so many students and so many budding academics in Nigeria and beyond Nigeria. And wherever you find yourself, you can reach out to us from your university and expect us to have a Zoom meeting with you for whatever thing you want to do. God bless you and thank you all. I want to appreciate my co-presenters. Hello.
Professor
I want to
Bright.
appreciate my co-presenters, Dr. Afalabolo Okere, Dr. Oluwatosin Adeni. And then before I end the meeting, I want Dr. Okere to make one or two comments, and then Dr. Adeni to make a comment.
Professor Bright, can I just say something?
Okay, who is that, please? Sorry.
My name is Kingsley Waigwe.
Okay, sir. Oh.
Yes.
Sorry, sir. I didn't see you, sir. I'm saying, sorry, sir.
I was on the
Yeah,
take note sometimes. I just want to thank you and your team for this novel idea that you have brought.
Thank you, sir.
It's a great sacrifice. I have always known you that you are capable of doing things like this. Also, Dr. Luwakere, I'm happy that you guys are doing this, understanding the importance of research in Nigeria. I hope that government will come to realize that there is need to really support research and as well support this effort. Anyway, we need to take it further for government to also appreciate what is going on here. I think it is welcome. Congratulations for what you have done so far. I'm very happy and I'm glad to associate with you.
Thank you, sir. That is my former head of unit when I was working at the NDIC at Abuja. Mr. Kingsley Wagwe, he was my mentor, because when I was at the department, I learned so many things from him. Thank you, sir, for joining, and God bless you, sir. And we really, really appreciate your comment. It's really, really encouraging. And we'll keep in touch with you, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay, Dr. Lokere, you can continue.
Okay, so just to say thank you, everyone, for coming. Thanks to other speakers. And I'm very sure, I hope that next time we call on you, you will heed our call. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Okay, so once again, thank you very much. Please visit the website, and whatever thing you want, the email is there, contact us. If you want personal engagement, it will be done free of charge. We will do that, please. Personal engagement, we can do it. But we prefer a group like this so that we can say we interface with all your students in your university or whatever you are doing, and then relate with you one-on-one on what we can do. Once again, we want to say thank you. We have another meeting that is coming up just immediately after this one. I appreciate everybody. If I cannot mention your name, please, I'm sorry. I appreciate everybody. I saw that we have close to 200 people that were in this meeting as we started, and almost up to 50% of, up to half of when we started the meeting. I appreciate everybody. So many people that have been logged out. In fact, some people are trying to reach us that they want to log in, they're having issues, probably because they are logging in late. That's why they're having those issues, or maybe it's their network problem. But we appreciate everyone wherever you are. Somebody called from Cameroon. There's so many countries like that they said they're interested. We appreciate all of you, and God bless you. Please keep the engagement, on. You can reach us from, the email is there. We have the website, we have the email. I'm going to send, okay, before I close, let me send the website once again. So you can reach us, and you can also reach us through the email. We'll be glad to relate with you very, very well. Okay, the website has been sent. And let me also send the email. So with this, you can reach us very well, please. You can reach us very well. Like the website has so many things you can have interest on, and then so many other things. If you want to be a mentor, you can register, and then it's free. And then you can send in your question. We'll attend to them. God bless you, and thank you for joining. Oh, Father.